Hello, my name is Deborah Whitman, and I'm the founder and president of a nonprofit called Environmental Voices. We provide research and education about toxic chemicals and how they affect our health and the environment. And I first want to thank people for coming out and joining us today at this event. We're trying to share information on all types of environmental issues, and that includes smart meters, it includes GMOs, it includes fracking. We have speakers in all these areas. So I hope you'll join us today regarding that. I just am trying to unite all of us because we're all fighting the same evil sources out there and forces, and we need to make some changes. And the more people, the more action that we can get done, and we can make this change that we need in the world. And I'm talking worldwide because most of these issues involve worldwide in movement. So I say no to GMOs. One of the reasons is that they're doing all kinds of changes regarding our seeds, and the one documentary that I recommend is The World According to Monsanto, and that's excellent. That's on YouTube, and you can watch that, and you'll learn a little bit about some of the things that are going on with our GMO foods. And we're going to have speakers here later that are going to explain that in more detail and how it affects our health and the environment. I also say no to fracking. Now, fracking is another issue that's come up, especially in California. They're doing more and more fracking, and the water that they use for the fracking process is millions of gallons of water that we need here in the state of California. Then that water is polluted, and it gets in the underground water, and so it's affecting our drinking water. And there's some areas in some states where they can turn on their water, and it explodes with the methane gas and that type of thing. So we need to stop fracking in California. And then I understand that they're also trying to clean the water up, and they're irrigating a lot of our farmland with this type of water that's from the fracking process. So we have a speaker that should be here today to talk a little bit more about the fracking issue. I say no to geoengineering and chemtrails. And the reason I say no is this is a worldwide program. There's evidence that the toxic chemicals from these programs has contaminated our soil, has contaminated our food. We're breathing these toxic chemicals. Many people are getting ill. We're recommending them to chelate the metals out of their body and build up their immune system because of this ongoing geoengineering program. So again, we have 3 speakers that will be speaking on this subject. We have many other subjects that are coming up, and I hope that you will join together, and we can make a difference. And this program is going to go on until 2 o'clock with the speakers, and after that we are going to encourage people to get handout material and go and lobby their legislators, the members of the legislators. So I encourage you to do that. I also have some other information that we're going to be providing later on the day. There's some events coming up. There's going to be Earth Day here in Sacramento, I believe on the 24th, which is a Sunday of April, so I hope you'll attend that. There's going to be a geoengineering march, and that's going to be in Old Sacramento, and that's going to be on April 23rd, so meet there in Sacramento in front of Rio City Cafe, and we'll be providing handout material, and you can speak to people there in Old Sacramento. And so there's information on environmentalvoices.org website on the events that will be coming up. So I hope you will join us. And I want to do an introduction here of a very special friend who will be speaking today. And this is Jennifer Martin, and she's the founder and president of HEAL, which stands for Health and Environmental Alliance in Roseville. It's a forum for discussing health and environmental issues. She's an educator and award-winning author of 3 books and 6 screenplays, and the television host and producer of Hot Stuff, an educational program which aired in Sacramento area for 8 years. She's also the producer and writer of Breaking Ground for Peace, winner of the Outstanding Cine Visionary Award at the 2012 Sacramento International Film Festival. So I'd like to welcome my friend Jennifer Martin.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Deborah is the founder and president of Environmental Voices. She's done a lot to organize this event for you so that we could get the word out about our toxic world. 30 years ago, I was diagnosed with psoriasis. I don't know if you know what that is, but 8 million Americans have it. And it's characterized by scaly patches of skin. My dermatologist told me that I had the second worst case he had ever seen, and there was no cause or cure for it. Well, guess what? There is a cause and there is a cure. It took me 30 years and $20,000 to find it as I used myself as a guinea pig and tried everything from Western medicine to Eastern medicine, tried Reiki, the Edgar Cayce protocol, you name it, I tried it. But as I started to research on myself, I connected the dots, and they all led me to discovering that it's our toxic environment, our poisoned air, water, and food that caused my psoriasis. And once I addressed that, and I started to detox and watch what I drank, watch what I ate, tried to get the chemicals from chemtrails out of my system through zeolite and chelation and other ways, I started to clear up. I've been clear for 3 years. Now, thank you. And I suspect that this environment has caused a lot of other problems, health problems for us. For example, the chemicals from our government's aerosol spraying program known as geoengineering or chemtrails has drastically affected our health and increased upper respiratory disease, ADHD, Asperger's, and autism. My granddaughter was diagnosed with PDD-NOS, which is pervasive delay disorder. It's the lowest rung of autism, when she was 2.5 years old. I started giving her zeolite drops, and within 6 months, she started talking. Her nerve system started connecting because the chemicals were taken out that disrupted it, and she is fine. She does not have autism anymore. The Institute for Responsible Technology also cites many health problems due to GMOs since they were introduced in 1996. The percentage of Americans with 3 or more chronic illnesses jumped from 7% to 13% in just 9 years. Food allergies have skyrocketed, and disorders such as autism, infertility, digestive problems, and others are on the rise. The World Health Organization has declared that glyphosate, which is the main ingredient in Roundup, is carcinogenic. 90% of our corn, wheat, and soy grown in the United States is sprayed with Roundup, allegedly to speed up the drying process, but it's poisoning us. In 2011, more than 34 million cattle and 850,000 calves were slaughtered to provide beef for the United States consumers. An estimated 80% of all the U.S. feedlot cattle are injected with hormones to make them grow faster. One government study from 2007 estimated that about 17% of all cows in the United States were given the genetically engineered growth hormone, RBGH, to increase milk production. Heavy metals, drug residues, and pesticides are also found in beef. And while bacteria can be killed off by cooking, these contaminants continue to stay in the meat. So, once I understood that my psoriasis was directly linked to our toxic environment, I had to detox and do everything I could to alert other people to ways to detox as well. I started giving workshops at Sierra College in Rockland, at the Sacramento Learning Exchange, called Staying Healthy in a Toxic World. I also started a group at Sun City Roseville, where I live, called HEAL, which stands for Health and Environmental Alliance. And it gives our residents a chance to share our knowledge about health and environmental issues. Last year, my husband and I organized a group of residents to fight the installation of a Verizon cell tower that they wanted to place right inside our Roseville compound. We got 1,300 people to sign a petition. We called out the media, thank you Channel 40 and 13, and we stood up to the board in a way that no one has stood up to them before. They had to back down. So more than ever, it's important that we stand tall for what we want, for what is right, and let our voices be heard. Like Elie Wiesel once said, we must take sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. So thanks for coming today to join the chorus of many voices demanding a sustainable future in which our health and the welfare of our planet comes first. Now we're going to have our next speaker. Okay, before we have our next speaker, I'd like to introduce Kate Willens and Amanda Marino, who will be providing wonderful music, and as well as Barclay Neumann. Here we go.
Thank you very much. I wonder if I could get somebody up here to help me move the stand up a little bit. Dara? This is my friend Amanda Marino, and she and I go to church together, and she came up to me one day and said, you know, I'd like to write a song about GMOs, and it just so happens that I was writing one, and this is that song. And we have also with us today Zosima, Amanda's son, and he plays the drums. So here you go. I just want to raise it up about 2 inches. Yeah, I just can't get it. It's just This song is called Just Say No to GMOs. One, two, ready, and Johnny's at the table, Johnny's at the table, chewing on tomato. It tastes a little bit like fish. Susie comes in later, slicing her potato, sets it down, tells Johnny this. I'm sorry we had trouble with the mic, but then we got it on.
Hey everybody, I'm proud to and privileged to present our friend Barclay Neumann. Barclay is a great singer-songwriter, political activist, and a political songwriter. So without further ado, Barclay Neumann.
All right, some of you folks might know me from my song, We Don't Want Your GMOs. I wasn't going to do that one today because I'll do it at the next March Against Monsanto or something. But I put together a new song just especially for today. I couldn't include all the different groups out here, but I got as many as I could. And borrowed this tune from Bob Dylan a little bit. Take this food away from me. I can't eat it anymore. There's GMOs that I can't see. That's why we're knocking on the government's door. Knock, knock, knocking on the government's door. Knock, knock, knocking on the government's door. Knock, knock, knocking on the government's door. Just like so many times before. Mama, there's white lines across the skies. They won't tell us what they're for. They're killing bees and they're telling lies. That's why we're knocking on the government's door. Knock, knock, knocking on the government's door. Knock, knock, knocking on the government's door. Knock, knock, knocking on the government's door. Just like so many times before. Mama, there's fracking all around. We won't take it anymore. They're putting poisons into the ground. That's why we're knocking on the government's door. Knock, knock, knocking on the government's door. Knock, knock, knocking on the government's door. Knock, knock, knocking on the government's door. Just like so many times before. Mama, there's no water in the ground. It's all in bottles in the stores. We want Nestle's to shut it down. That's why we're knocking on the government's door. Knock, knock, knocking on the government's door. Knock, knock, knocking on the government's door. Mama, wipe this food off of my face. I don't know what's in it anymore. There's GMOs all over the place. That's why we're knocking on the government's door. Knock, knock, knocking on the government's door. Knock, knock, knocking on the government's door. Knock, knock, knocking on the government's door. Thank you very much. Appreciate being here.
Thank you, Barclay Neumann and Kate Willens and Amanda Marino. Next up is our speaker, Diana Roddie. She currently operates Bina Consulting, specializing in economic and community development, technology, workforce training, and legislative policy advocacy and research. Bina Consulting also conducts technical research projects and engages in grant writing, stakeholder networking, technical report preparation, and project coordination. For many years, Diana was employed by California, including 19 years as a legislative policy consultant. She currently serves as the legislative advocate for the California State Guild. Let's welcome Diana Roddie.
Diana! Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here today and glad to see all of you. I'm going to talk a little bit about how a bill becomes law and also a little bit about legislation. There is a document that looks like this that's on the table over there. If you'd like to consult it, it's a very good chronology of how the legislation goes through the legislature when it's introduced. And just briefly, I'll summarize. It first has to start with an idea for legislation. And those ideas normally come from the members themselves, from their staff, from their constituents, or from a constituent need in the district or statewide, or it starts with a lobbyist. So, and then once the bill is presented and written, it goes to the Legislative Council for drafting, and that's an office of legal people, lawyers who draft legislation. And then it goes to with something called a Rules Committee. Both houses of the legislature have to hear any bill. So, for instance, if it's an assembly bill, it gets to Assembly Rules Committee, and it gets assigned to a committee, and a policy committee. And there are several policy committees. They're all divided by subject area. And they study the bill, analyze it, and hear it. And if it has a fiscal effect, it goes to a committee on fiscal called Appropriations. And then it goes to the floor, the assembly floor. If that passes, if it's an assembly bill, it goes to the Senate, and the same process comes again. I just wanted to mention something else that's important to be aware of is term limits. In 1990, for the first time, Proposition 140 was passed that limited the terms of members, 6 years for Assembly and 8 years for the Senate. And there's been several studies about the effect of that term limit law. One of them is the fact that members aren't in office long enough to get familiar with a lot of policy issues. There's been a reduction in research capacity. Organizations like the Legislative Analyst have been reduced in funding. They used to provide analysis for fiscal effect of bills, and they don't do that any longer. So there's just been, other things. But in 2012, there was another initiative you probably know about, and that was Proposition 28, and that extended the terms of members for the Assembly. The terms increased from 6 years to 12 years, And on the Senate, it increased from 8 years to 12 years. So that's, I feel a little bit better because it gives members a little more time to get grounded in what their policy priorities are and just get familiar with how things work at the Capitol. The other thing I wanted to talk about is if you wanted to find out who your legislator is, if you want to contact a member who represents your district about an issue you're concerned about, you can find out by a website. Well, you can call the legislature, but also find out by http://findyourrep.legislature.ca.gov. That's one way to find your member. And also to find legislation or by author or by subject, you can also go to a website on that. And it's www.leginfo.ca.gov. If you have questions about that, let me know after. I wanted to talk a little bit about some issues. One is prominently displayed here on the genetically engineered food issue. And this is a rally about people for change. And because of that, I think it's important to mention the state of Vermont. The state of Vermont, as some of you know, was the first state in the country to pass a bill requiring genetically engineered food labeling. And they've been challenged in court action. And so far, the court action by Grocery Manufacturers Association and others have not been successful. The law will go into effect July 1. Congress has, at least 2 bills have been introduced in Congress referred to as the DARK Act. And the DARK Act would prevent states from having any ability to enact laws to label genetically engineered foods. Just this week, there was a letter that was initiated by several organizations. Label GMOs was a lead, and CSG, the California State Guild that I work with, signed on, and 600 organizations signed on, and it was a letter to Congress. And I just wanted to read a couple of things. It says, "We support the ability, indeed the right, of states to pass laws requiring labels on genetically engineered food. In July, the state of Vermont is set to implement a GMO labeling law that was thoroughly vetted and passed in 2014. And other states are expected to do the same. Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut are some, and New York and others. The Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis believes states are laboratories of democracy. We should allow Vermont to lead the way by carrying out the will of the people." A New York Times article said recently that about 93% of Americans want genetically engineered food labeling. So it's very encouraging to know that at the state level, we have an opportunity to change. We are people of change by influencing our state legislators, and that's how important that activity is. Just briefly, a couple of bills that are going through the legislature. One has to do with seed and the availability of heirloom seed. Because of monocropping and industrial agriculture, the diversity of our plant varieties have plummeted. There was an article in National Geographic in 2011 that said that 90% of our seed varieties, plant varieties, have disappeared. And so we're supporting having seed banks, seed libraries, be able to continue to store and collect heirloom seeds so that they would be available locally as a food security issue. So that's a bill, AB 1810, and it just passed out of Assembly Agriculture. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. Our next speaker is Bob McFarland. He is a speaker and an activist who supports communities providing fresh and local, sustainable food, and he encourages people to have a voice in the government. Bob McFarland.
Woo-hoo, Bob! Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you all for coming today. Brothers and sisters, and I do respectfully refer to you as brothers and sisters because we are all the children of Mother Earth, and we're all here and we share that in common. All living creatures started from microbial life 4 billion years ago. And as sure as we are standing here, we know that a comet killed the dinosaurs. We know that European conquerors decimated Native American populations. And we know that global warming is killing off the polar bears. And as sure as we are standing here, we know that corporate profiteers are threatening the survival of the human race. The earth is our mother, and we are her children. She gave us life, and for 200,000 years she has suckled us and provided us with shelter and nourished us. Of all living creatures, she chose us to be her greatest creation. How have we shown her our appreciation? How have we demonstrated our respect? How have we returned her love? The truth is, we have been a terrible disappointment, haven't we? Haven't we?
Yep.
She gave us life, and we learned to kill. She taught us love, and we learned to hate. She provided abundance, and we learned about greed and waste. For the last 10,000 years, we have been preoccupied with finding the means to annihilate ourselves. Whenever there is an opportunity for corporate profits, human life will be sacrificed. But if there is one thing that history has taught us, it is that Mother Nature always has the last laugh. Mother Nature can be a real bitch when she wants to be. We have screwed up the air she's given us to breathe. We have screwed with the water she gave us to drink. We have screwed with the soil and the seed she's given us to grow our food. And we have evolved to the point where scientists, engineers, and profiteers think they can do a better job of taking care of us than Mother Earth. Just how stupid do they think we are? They say they're going to feed the world, and they poison our food. They say they're helping farmers, and they take away their seeds. They have remarkable plans to provide all of us with drinking water, and then they contaminate it. Our soil, our water, our atmosphere, these are gifts that were given to us by Mother Nature, and these people do not have the right to take them away from us and pollute them or profit from them. Brothers and sisters, we are here today outside this grand building, a symbol of power and wealth, while inside the mighty wheels of government turn without us, fueled by great amounts of money and piloted by agents representing colossal global corporations. Why are we here? Pushing against these formidable granite arches, knocking on these enormous oak doors. Why are we here? Shouting for the attention of the legislators inside who are distracted by 1,000 other voices.
That's because the president murders people and he sets up innocent people like me. He's a
Amen.
murderer. He's locked up. He's trying to murder me right now in West Sac. The president is a sorry crook.
All right.
He's locked up. He's getting persecuted by my Lord. I'm a prophet of God. Amen.
Thank you, Donald Trump. We're here shouting for the attention of these legislators. We are here because freedom is a human quality that cannot be genetically engineered. We are here because activism is the only nourishment that will satisfy our hunger for truth and justice. We are here because our lives and the lives of our children and Mother Earth depend on us. And we have chosen to come here today to push against these formidable granite walls together to knock on these enormous doors together, to shout together at these legislators until they hear what we have to say. Together we can make a difference. Thank you for being here.
Our next speaker is Jessica J. Denning. She is Director of Label GMO. She became involved with Label GMOs in 2012 and is a full partner in gaining labels on genetically engineered foods and stopping the poisoning of our food, soil, and water. She began gathering signatures and activism and became Sacramento point person for Label GMOs. With Organic Sacramento, they held the premiere of Genetic Roulette at the Crest Theater. It galvanized and solidified the food consciousness movement in Sacramento. She formed the California State Grange Heirloom Committee with the assistance of Bob McFarland. It is the umbrella for moms across America and Label GMOs. It's my pleasure to introduce Jessica Denning.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming today. I know you're all busy. I know so many of you. We're all out here to get the poisons out of our children's food and air and water and soil. And we're making a difference. So today we call for change in America. And as we stand here on the Capitol steps in Sacramento, we demand action. I want to tell you that I am the California Legislative Director for Label GMOs, but I became inspired to make this my mission in life when I found out from Pam Leary, who's the Director of Label GMOs, and she stood here at the California State Range and told me that I had been eating pesticide delivery factories for 15 years. At that moment I decided, because I'm a science teacher, and I have 20 copyrights in food allergies, and I've been an organic farmer all my life, that if I did not know that I've been eating and feeding my family covert poison for 15 years, then I needed to tell other people. I watched my father die on kidney dialysis. I didn't know that Roundup destroys your kidneys, and that GMOs, most of them, are genetically engineered to be sprayed with weed killer and not die. It kills all the weeds. It's good, you don't have to do weeding, but then you've got your food saturated with Roundup. And we know that in Guatemala, 1 out of 4 of the field workers are dying every year from kidney failure. In Nicaragua, in El Salvador, in Sri Lanka, there's 20,000 people who died from kidney failure. And when Sri Lanka banned Roundup, Monsanto told them, they sued them, said they couldn't prove that Roundup destroys your kidneys. But we do see kidney dialysis clinics in every community now, on all the street corners. And we do see so many of our old folks dying of kidney failures. It's just one of the problems with Roundup, which chelates out minerals and kills the good organisms in the soil and leaves Salmonella, staph, botulism, and fungi. There are lots of fungus problems in the United States in farming now. So we're asking for action from our citizens, action from our legislators, and action from our food corporation. It is time for change. We see that the United States now is #1 in the industrialized world in the death of our newborn babies. #1. We see half of our children become chronically ill now, if you include diabetes. Our prisons are bursting, and the halls of our emergency rooms are full of mental health patients. Go into any one here in Sacramento. The mental health patients sit in the hallways for 2 days because there's too many of them for the hospitals. You and I both know that our children have not done well on the junk food diet. We need fresh, local, organic, honest food. I am a teacher. Our children are dropping dead on classroom floors from a bite of food. From a single bite of food, children have gone into anaphylactic shock. We saw the sweet little girl in Carmichael die, and the school has to have an EpiPen injector there to have someone trained to save the child's life. So this legislature passed SB 1266. This is their answer to the children dropping dead on the classroom floor in 2014 to give free EpiPen injectors and train someone in each school to bring our children back to life after a bite of food has sent them into anaphylactic shock. Allergies and autoimmune diseases have skyrocketed in the 20 years since genetically engineered food has been introduced because it's not labeled and nobody realizes the relationship between the change in our food and the deaths of our children. There's no liability. So how many of you are sniffling and congested today from allergies to tree pollen? What has changed in these last 20 years? In 1996, Monsanto and Syngenta, Bayer and BASF poisoned our basic food crops to be genetically engineered with pesticide inside Bacteriothuringiensis to kill the bugs, and designed our crops to be sprayed with weed killer Roundup and not to die. So inside the Roundup is something called glyphosate, which Monsanto calls the active ingredient. Now we're going to see it's not the active ingredient. That's the only thing they've ever tested is glyphosate, but there's much, much more in there. This poison food was slipped onto the American market as shelves were stocked in the middle of the night, unlabeled and unannounced. In fact, the corporations have spent hundreds of millions of dollars fighting laws to put a simple label on GMO foods. The EPA, USDA, FDA, that's the Environmental Protection Agency, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and the Food and Drug Administration have only ever asked for voluntary testing from the companies themselves, because Michael Taylor, who was vice president of Monsanto, became head of the FDA, and GMOs were declared to be substantially equivalent to conventional food. Well, if they're the same, why even test them? They're going on the market, not labeled, nobody even knows. We don't even know the harm they do. It's like opening up Pandora's box. And in the farm, they're letting out seeds with pollen that are contaminating our heirloom seeds. So our foods are declared safe by the companies which make our seeds. The poison companies which brought us Agent Orange, PCBs, and dioxin. And Monsanto paid $700 million for poisoning the entire town of Anniston, Alabama for decades. And they're telling us our food is safe. Roundup has only ever been tested for the active ingredient glyphosate, but the inert ingredients, the industrial secrets in Roundup, make Roundup 100,000 times more chronically toxic than the glyphosate alone. The mixture has never been tested together. Now, you know, if you clean with Clorox, it doesn't kill you. Or if you clean with ammonia, it doesn't kill you. But if you mix Clorox and ammonia together, it makes chlorine gas. And we see maids and people getting killed because they don't know that you can't mix those two chemicals without making some new compound. And yet, we've never tested the compound all together in Roundup. So Moms Across America, of which I'm West Coast Director, has tested. We paid $125 a test because the FDA has not tested for the Roundup in our foods. We've had to test, and we found weed killer Roundup in breast milk of our nursing mothers, killing the gut flora of our babies. And in a Quebec study, we found Bt toxin in the cord blood of our babies. And 85% of the cord blood of our babies and 93% of the pregnant mother's blood. So Monsanto has always said that it doesn't go past your mouth and into your body, but we know that's not true because we're finding it in breast milk, we're finding it in the cord blood of our babies. Roundup is a weed killer. Thank you. So I have 2 minutes. And the World Health Organization has declared glyphosate a probable carcinogen. It's time for change. You have made that change happening. You are changing the world. We stood here on January 4th in the Seed Freedom Rally. We stood here the previous year. And now 10,000 moms and dads of Moms Across America, anyone who had a mom, many of you called the EPA in 1 week and demanded that the EPA and the FDA test for residues of glyphosate. Until finally they said, stop calling, and they talked with us. And the FDA is now testing for glyphosate in breast milk this year. You did that. So please, please, please go to GMO for USA. Yeah, there's a flyer on my table over there by that lamppost that tells you our links. GMO for USA was started by a Diane Reeves of Connecticut who had a 4-year-old son who died of cancer. And her mission is to get rid of the poisons in our food. So go to GMO for USA and just click each day for one action. There's 700,000 of us. And when she says send a little love to Kellogg's, go tell them to take GMOs out of our children's foods. We are changing the world. ConAgra has said that they will take and label their GMOs. So has General Mills said that they will label their GMOs just in the last few weeks. Mars has said they will label. Campbell's has said that they will label their GMOs. You are changing the world as you vote with your dollar for an organic world. Because when 5% of the people stop buying a product, it's called the tipping point. If you read Seeds of Deception or watch Genetic Roulette by Jeffrey Smith, the tipping point is consumer rejection when it's no longer financially preferential to market a product which consumers aren't buying. So you're seeing now all of a sudden interest in organic. We buy organic. That is the secret to taking the poison out of your children's world. And so go to Moms Across America, go to GMO for USA, go to labelgmos.org, and sign and click. Right now, we're trying to stop the DARK Act from being re-emerging in Congress. The TPP, and it's already been passed in the House, and it's in the Senate, so it could re-emerge in the next few weeks. It's really important for you to tune in. Also, the TPP has been signed by the President, and it's sitting for the votes in the Congress. Okay, my time's up. So, buy organic. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Inga Olson, who'll be talking about nuclear programs. Inga Olson has been the program director of Tri-Valley Cares, which monitors activities at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, one of 2 locations that design every nuclear weapon in the U.S. arsenal. Inga led successful federal efforts to restore environmental cleanup budgets at the lab and establish a resource center in Livermore for sick nuclear workers and surviving spouses. She represented TVC at the UN Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty Review conferences and preparatory meetings in New York. It's my great pleasure to introduce Inga Olson.
I love being here with my fellow activists. I always learn new things, so thank you, everybody. My name is Inga, and I'm a longtime resident here in Sacramento. I'm also a member of Tri-Valley Cares. CARES stands for Communities Against a Radioactive Environment, and it's an anti-nuclear weapons organization based in Livermore. People who live around the Livermore Nuclear Weapons Laboratory founded Tri-Valley Cares more than 30 years ago. Livermore Lab is one of 2 places in the country that designs every nuclear bomb in the U.S. arsenal. Livermore Lab has 2 physical locations. The main site is in the city of Livermore, and a high explosives testing range called Site 300 near Tracy in the Central Valley. Livermore Lab releases toxic and radioactive contaminants, and the pollution can impact the entire Bay Area and Central Valley. In the event of a major radiation accident, if the winds are blowing north, Sacramento could be affected. The Livermore Lab's main site and its high explosives testing range are both on the EPA's, the Environmental Protection Agency's, Superfund list due to the severe radioactive and toxic pollution. The air, the soil, the water, and even the groundwater aquifers that represent our future drinking water are heavily contaminated with hazardous and nuclear waste. The environment is so horribly polluted from the lab's nuclear activities that Superfund cleanup is expected to continue for the next 50 to 60 years or more. Tri-Valley Cares has consistently insisted that Livermore Lab involve the public in environmental decisions. Recently, we developed a one-page letter for members of the public to sign in order to improve the Superfund cleanup. The letter contains a set of reasonable demands about cleaning up leaking, toxic, and radioactive waste. And I invite you to come to our table to read the letter and sign the letter. In addition to pollution from past activities, Livermore Lab's present nuclear weapons programs generate a huge amount of new toxic and radioactive waste every year. The Department of Toxic Substances Control, or DTSC, here in Sacramento regulates some of these wastes. Unfortunately, I must tell you that DTSC is poised to issue a weak hazardous waste permit. We want the DTSC to strengthen that permit and to strengthen its enforcement of California's health and environmental laws. I want to close by saying a few words about the nuclear weapons work at Livermore Lab going on right now. Scientists there are developing a new nuclear warhead. It's called the Long Range Standoff Weapon, or the LSRO. The LSRO will be a new, stealthy, radar-evading weapon. It's able to launch a nuclear sneak attack from thousands of miles away. By anyone's definition, this is a potential first-use weapon. Its development will make nuclear war more likely. Our nation's former Secretary of Defense, William Perry, calls the LRSO a uniquely destabilizing weapon. He has called on President Obama to cancel it. However, the President's fiscal year 2017 budget request, released this past February, asked for more than $220 million for Livermore Lab to begin creating for Livermore this new LSRO weapon. Another new development at Livermore Lab is the use of deadly plutonium in the National Ignition Facility. The NIF, as it is called, is a huge laser the size of 2 football fields. Plutonium is the radioactive core in nuclear weapons. These experiments imperil the lab workers as well as the community. When I worked at Tri-Valley Cares, one of my jobs involved running a support group for Livermore Lab workers made ill by on-the-job exposures. It was heartbreaking to hear from the workers about how production took precedence over safety. It was even more heartbreaking to help spouses file for compensation after their partners had died of radiation-induced illnesses. One of my proudest accomplishments at Tri-Valley Cares was convincing Congress to establish a resource center for sick workers in Livermore. I wish I could tell you that everything is okay now at Livermore Lab, but it is not. I invite you to stay informed about what's going on at the lab. We have a website, www.trivalleycares.org. Tri-Valley Cares' ultimate goal is to transform Livermore Lab from nuclear weapons activities to a green lab with a civilian science focus. Working together, we can and we must create a more just, peaceful, and environmentally secure future for all beings and the coming generations. We are pleased to be here with our fellow activists, and we support the great organizing work that the groups have done. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Brandy Vaughan, a former Merck sales representative who founded the Council for Vaccine Safety in response to the industry's unprecedented push to eliminate medical choice with regard to vaccines. After losing trust in the United States healthcare industry while working in it, she felt she had to speak up about what's really going on behind the scenes with the broken vaccine system in the United States and help bring the true vaccine risks to light. The Council has recently launched the Learn the Risk campaign using billboards and other visible media to raise public awareness of vaccine ingredients and risks. And now to talk about vaccines is Brandy Vaughan.
Hi, thank you for coming out today on this nice day. So, the most important thing that you're going to take away from this speech today is that vaccines do far more harm than good. So, stepping back a little bit, I'm sure everyone here has been touched by cancer. Probably most of you know someone with autism, someone with allergies, asthma, autoimmune illness. All of these things have really one thing in common. Doctors, don't know exactly what causes it, but they will tell you it's linked to environmental factors. And that's why we're all here today. Because the toxic chemicals that we take in through our mouth, in our food, through our air, through what we breathe, and what we drink, is responsible for skyrocketing rates of autoimmune illness, neurological issues, and we have a generation of sicker people in the US than ever before. 1 in 12 women now has an autoimmune issue. 1 in 6 children have a developmental issue. 1 in every 3 people is touched by autoimmune illness, asthma, allergies, lupus, arthritis. And then, of course, there's cancer. 1 in 3 men will die of it. 1 in 4 women will die of it. It is now the leading cause of death for children. This is not a coincidence. We have to step back, and that's what everyone is here to do, is get people to question, what are we putting in our bodies? What is going on that we have such a sick population? And far sicker than most countries in the world. I lived in Europe. You may wonder, who are you and why are you here? My first experience with healthcare, the US, was working for Merck. I sold Vioxx for Merck for 2 years. If anyone remembers Vioxx, it was a drug that killed people. It was pulled off the market after 5 years. Estimates anywhere from 50,000 to 500,000 people had a heart attack or stroke and died as a result of being on Vioxx. That gave me quite a lot of insight into the pharmaceutical industry. And what I really learned was just because something's on the market does not mean it's safe. And that includes vaccines. So here we are today with really skyrocketing rates of issues and disease and issues and autoimmune disorders and things in our population. And here we're all questioning, what's in our air, what's in our food. Vaccines need to be a part of this conversation. Every time I mention the word vaccine, I get called crazy. But all of these issues are linked to environmental toxins. And what we put in our body is even far more important than what injected than what we put in through our mouth and our nose. All of those things go through the natural body's detox filters. What we put into our body through injection does not. So everything that we put in there is far more potent. So what's in a vaccine? Because the doctor won't tell you, and they won't give you an insert, and there's a good reason for that. Because if you looked at it and you actually knew what was in the vaccine, you would not allow it in your body. There are high levels of aluminum, which is a known neurotoxin, even in vaccine-relevant doses. It's linked to Alzheimer's, it's linked to breast cancer. In fact, my grandmother had breast cancer, and her doctors biopsied her tissues and found aluminum. And that's from traditional deodorant. How come we can talk about that, but we can't talk about the aluminum that is going straight to our brains when we inject it into our body? Why are vaccines not a part of this conversation? They need to be not only a part of the conversation, they need to be the biggest part of the conversation. What goes in our body is the most important thing we have, because if we don't have our health, we really have nothing. So while doctors agree that environmental toxins are a huge cause of all of these issues we see in our society today, and might I add, that is only really in the US. Other countries are not seeing the same skyrocketing rates of illness. I lived in Europe for 8 years. They don't even know what food allergies are over there. In fact, the new normal in the US is now, I have a 5-year-old son, and when he goes to a play date, everyone asks, oh, what can't he eat? What is he allergic to? How did this become normal in our society? I grew up on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Now my son can't bring them to school. Why? And the biggest worry to me is why we're not asking these questions and why we're not allowing an open discussion and an open conversation about these things. So when we have vaccines that we put into our body that have these toxins, what happens when we inject those into our body? They don't go through the natural filter processes, so they go straight to the vital organs. And also, we cannot detox from them. And then, sorry, something distracted me. Whatever is injected is far more potent than ingested. That is one of the main points. And we're seeing these issues all over in the US and not in other countries. Things that we don't see in other countries. And they don't have the same schedule. We get 4 times more vaccines than when I was a child. And we give, now we give children before age of 5, we give 49 vaccines. This is unheard of in any other country. We give 2 to 3 times more vaccines than any other country in the world. And we have the sickest children. One of the biggest discussions around this is the infant mortality rate. The US has one of the highest infant mortality rates in the developed world. And there is a reason. We have the highest vaccine schedule. It is not a coincidence. Save the Children just did a report saying that the US has the #1 in the developed world, the highest newborn first day infant death rate. If we have the best healthcare in the world, we are spending more per capita on healthcare than any other country. Why are our children dying on the first day of birth? We are the only country that gives hepatitis B the first day of birth to non-risk populations. Does anyone know anyone with hepatitis B? Probably not, because there are only a few dozen people in California with it. Why are we giving our children a hepatitis B vaccine full of aluminum on their first day of birth? Well, it isn't working out for us very well, because we have, again, the highest first day newborn death rate in the developed world. Why are we not asking these questions? So why we're here today, we're all here, is to remind legislators and lawmakers that they work for the people. They don't work for corporations. The pharmaceutical industry spent $5.2 billion on advertising last year. They spent $3.2 billion lobbying our lawmakers. They are the highest lobbyists in Congress and here in this Senate. There were thousands of us that came last year to this state capitol to protest when they started taking rights away, our rights to say no to vaccines, and our rights to what actually goes into our body. There were thousands of us, and SB 277, if any of you are familiar with it, still passed. Children in California are now mandated to receive 35 vaccines before school. They have to be up to date on the schedule, wherever they enter the system, preschool, daycare. This puts California as one of the 3 strictest states in the US in terms of mandatory vaccines. Those other 2 states, West Virginia and Mississippi, well, it's not working out very well for them either. Mississippi has the highest infant mortality rate. West Virginia is not far behind at 47, and California just joined them. There were thousands of us protesting this last year, and it still went through. Why? Because of that $3.2 billion that pharmaceutical companies spend on our lawmakers every year. So we're here today to remind them, they don't work for corporations, they don't work for pharma, they don't work for oil and gas companies, they don't work for Monsanto, they work for us. We pay their bills through our taxpayer money, and our children are not for sale. So one of the real questions that people ask me, because I speak regularly on this topic, people say, but Brandy, what about the diseases? We would all have polio and measles and all of these things if we didn't have the vaccine program. But nobody has taken the time to actually research herd immunity, because herd immunity cannot be created in a lab. It only comes from natural acquisition of the disease. And if you look at the historical data, all of these diseases, including ones that do not have vaccines, were declining and were 80 to 90% declined before vaccines were introduced. Where is tuberculosis? Because it was the #2 killer in the US in the 1900s. And in 1997, when the CDC did their follow-up report, TB wasn't even on the list. Has anybody been vaccinated for TB? No, not here in the US. Neither for cholera or scarlet fever, both killers in the early 1900s. So what we're being told by pharma is just not true. Vaccines are a very profitable business. When I was in pharmaceuticals, the safety testing was gold standard double-blind placebo tests, long-term. They don't have that for vaccines. There is no placebo-based safety test. If they were classified as pharmaceutical drugs, they wouldn't be on the market. But they are, because the level of testing and safety testing done is far below standard. What else? They have no liability. Pharmaceutical companies do not have liability. One of the only industries in the US that has no liability for any damage done by their product. So vaccines are really profitable and without liability. So we have a prescription drug market that is very competitive, that has 6 to 8 drugs per class. It's very hard to get in with the safety testing. It's very expensive, and they have liability. They've been sued for fraud 13 times in the last 5 years. So they're looking to vaccines because guess what? There's no liability. There's a higher profit margin, and there's less investment because less safety testing. There are 271 vaccines in development right now. This is the next cash cow. You can see it on Forbes Investor. You can see it on C-SPAN. This is where they're looking to make profits now. They're moving into vaccines, and mandatory vaccine bills is how they're doing it. And it's not just for children, it's for adults as well. Actually, adults are next on the list. There's a Healthy People 2020 program. So within 5 to 10 years, adults will be rolling up their sleeves if pharma has their way. So we need to activate, and we need to let our lawmakers know that this is not acceptable. Our health is not for sale, and our children are not for sale. And I want to close with one of my favorite quotes by Martin Luther King. I often get asked why I do this, because when you speak out against pharma, believe me, they don't make it an easy road. But I do this because I have to. And as Martin Luther King said, our lives begin to end the day we go silent about things that matter. So please join me today and every day in raising awareness, telling our politicians our children are not for sale, our health is not for sale, and taking back our health from the drug companies who are profiting off of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy Vaughan. That was wonderful. Next up is Dr. Mike Ledell, who is a chiropractor. He runs Voters Organized to Engage, and he'll be talking to you about modernizing the referendum recall process.
Hello, Sacramento! I don't think anybody can hear us! Hey, we want to fix political corruption! Here's how we're going to do it. Initiatives, referendums, and recalls. They require paid petition signature gatherers, which keeps the voters from being able to access the system. Paid petition signature gatherers is a very well thought out, very deserved profession that meets a need to help special interests use our lawmaking system. I have the utmost respect for our brothers and sisters that go out and collect signatures for a living. The problem is, regular voters, we cannot afford to use the system to pay these people. Now, I belong to a group called Voters Organized to Engage. With Voters Organized to Engage, we have set a platform to gather 5,000 volunteers. Because we can't pay for those paid petition signature gatherers, we need 5,000 volunteers, each willing to gather simply 100 voter registered signatures. When we get those volunteers in place, we want to present to California the fix for political corruption. The fix for political corruption is the California Initiative, Referendum, and Recall Reform Act of 2016. When we implement the California Initiative, Referendum, and Recall, we call her Sira. Sira is one pissed off mother. Sira wants political corruption ended. When we implement Sira, we're going to get a handful of things. We're going to get a direct voice on the Secretary of State's website. We're going to be able to take our signatures that they already keep digitally. They already transfer our signatures digitally from the DMV so we can register to vote online. We want to take those digital signatures and we want to bypass the paper process, the process that makes it so difficult for the voters to be heard. It's time for the voters to be heard. For the first time since 1911, we want to make the ballot initiative, referendum, and recall system work. Now, when this goes on to the Secretary of State's website, and we'll be able to endorse initiative, referendum, and recall directly with them, it takes out all the other middlemen. Unfortunately, that means our paid petition signature gatherers are going to have to find another way to get their voice out there. And just so you guys know, we didn't take away paid petition signature gathering, we left it as an option. It's an option for the voters to continue to use this system, but we want an alternate system, a very modernized system. We don't want to have to use our piece of paper and scratch a hole in it and hope that somebody understands whose signature it is. We have technology.
Why do you have to scream and yell? You have a microphone.
Because you can't hear me, you gotta listen harder. I got a voice too. Thank you for staying and have a nice day. Here we go. Sira needs your help. We need help with volunteers. We don't have millions of dollars to pay for signatures to be gathered. We need the good voters of California to understand that initiatives are the voters' right to make our own laws, to present them back to the voters and have them go directly in place. Referendum is the voters' ability to stop any law that they write. For $200, we can stop it, put it to the voters, and we can say, is this really what we want? Recall, we can ask for a new election if we wish to replace somebody that's not representing us. Those three processes are out of our reach currently. When we make digital signatures legal to be used on initiative, referendum, and recall, everything changes. Everything changes for every group here, every lobbyist, everybody that is fighting, special interest groups. Our lives are spent fighting our own government to be heard. The people are not being heard. Why am I talking so loud? Because I need to be heard. We all need to be heard. It's time. We also have a PDF download for those of you who can't use the online digital signature system. You can simply bring it in on pen and paper if you want. We gave them 180 days because they gave us 180 days to get the signatures. They got 180 days to put this into effect. We're looking to put this into effect as early as November 8, 2016, or as late as November 2018. It's time for us to get out of our busy lives, take some time out of our 3 jobs, and make something like this happen so we can start fixing our laws, changing the way things work. We are ready for a new political system. Now, Gabriel's been holding our banner, www.CIRRAOF2016.com. Fix political corruption is the message, and this message is approved by the Yes on the California Initiative, Referendum, and Recall Reform Act of 2016. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kate Willens, and I'm going to sing to you 2 songs regarding geoengineering. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Can you turn the vocal mic up a bit, please? Can you hear me now? Okay. So I learned about geoengineering in 2011, and I've been devoted to that cause ever since. And of course, all the causes are connected, and I thank Deborah Whitman so much for putting this program on today where we can meet each other and connect. People for change. This song is called Bluer Than Blue. Went out for a walk today. Weather's fine, but then white lines. Skies are cloudy, looks like rain. But nothing ever falls on California's plain. Skies look gummy, look crummy, look fake. Can't accept the dull heartache, knowing that my weather's been taken from me. Asking myself, how can it be? Bluer than blue, that's how the sky was. Whiter than white, those were the clouds sailing by. Asking my friends, have you seen the lines? They're telling me they ain't got time. Worried and harried, they're shaking their heads, doing their best to keep their family fed. When they sprayed my soldier's dyes, used to love to look at the skies. Skies are a window to the world above. Why can't they treat the skies with love? Bluer than blue, that's how the sky was. Whiter than white, those were the clouds sailing by. The sky shouldn't be a military zone, the amniotic sac of our earthly home. We breathe the sky with every breath we take. Geoengineering is a grave mistake. Together we can turn the tide, seek the truth and not hide. The future depends on what we do. Speak the truth, bluer than blue. Bluer than blue, that's how the sky was. Whiter than white, Those were the clouds sailing by. Bluer than blue, that was the land I thought I knew. Bluer than blue, bluer than blue.
Our next speaker is Deborah Whitman, Environmental Voices founder and president. She is, their mission is to provide research and education about toxic chemicals and how they affect our health and environment. Deborah started Environmental Voices in 2006 after she learned that she suffered from multiple chemical sensitivity. She wanted others to be educated about the harmful effects of toxic chemicals in their environment. She also produces environmental videos and public service announcements, and she and I worked on a movie that won first place in the 2012 Sacramento International Film Festival called Breaking Ground for Peace. It's about kids at Grant High School in Sacramento trying to start a peace park. You can look on it on Vimeo or YouTube. It's my pleasure to introduce Deborah Whitman.
Hello everyone, I want to thank you for being here today, and we have a wonderful day with no rain. I'm so happy. And I'm going to talk a little bit about geoengineering programs, and the other term is chemtrails, sometimes used, or persistent jet contrails. There's all types of terms, but the issue is that these are toxic chemicals. There's evidence in rainwater tests, air sampling tests that have been done, snowpack tests that have been done that indicate that these chemicals are toxic, are affecting our health and the environment. And in 2004, I was in Rancho Cordova living. I was very ill and going into emergency with respiratory problems. And I was videotaping these jets spraying something in the air. And I remember saying, I don't know what these planes are spraying, but I think it's what's making me so sick. In 2006, a friend who knew how ill I was called me and told me to go research chemtrails. And she said, it's big, I can't explain it, go research it. And sure enough, the first website I knew, that's why I was going into emergency with respiratory problems. So I started Environmental Voices to educate people on this issue, and a lot of people want facts. So I've got some facts that I'm going to share, also talk about consequences of these programs. The term chemtrails came in October 2nd of 2001. Representative Dennis Kucinich introduced a bill called the Space Preservation Act, where they used the term chemtrails. Well, that act was later amended, and then, of course, it didn't pass legislation, so that act is not current now, but that information is available on websites. The other thing that I like to refer people to is there's hundreds of patents that talk about geoengineering type programs, equipment, and ways to go ahead and carry out these programs. So I think I have some handouts at my table over here for Environmental Voices that you can get those patent numbers. But the one I like to refer to the most is the Hughes aircraft patent. It talks about dispersing aluminum oxide, barium oxide, and oxides of metals in the sky to help reduce global warming. So many of us believe that these programs have already been carried out worldwide, and we're trying to educate people about this and how it's affecting our health and the environment. These chemicals through our water, through our food, through the air that we breathe, accumulate into our bodies. And depending on your immune system, they might affect you more. If you have underlying health problems, if you're elderly, if you're young children, you'll be affected more by these toxic chemicals than somebody that might be in good health. So I also want to talk about the military has a document. It says to own the weather by 2025. many activists in this movement believe that they've already been carrying out these weather modification programs. And there's information on the websites for you to do some research on that issue as well. There's rain water tests and samples, and we did some samples of filaments, fibers that float in the air that come down. A lot of people thought they were spider webs, but we tested. They're coming back positive with aluminum, barium, and strontium, and titanium. Those were the four things that I tested for. We've also tested snowpack that have come positive with those. There should not be aluminum, barium, and strontium and titanium in our snowpack. Same thing with tree bark. We've tested and they're coming back positive with those chemicals. We've also done hair analysis tests on children and adults. They're coming back with over the limit, off the chart readings of military type chemicals. So we need to stop war worldwide. That's number one, because they are destroying this planet. Our oceans with the U.S. Navy warfare testing and training programs, they're polluting our oceans. So that's a whole nother ballgame. But we believe that the military is involved with these geoengineering programs. And again, you need to research that. Some of the illnesses that we're concerned with are neurological disorders, Alzheimer's, attention deficit disorder, chronic fatigue syndrome, autism, blood pressure, and stroke, which were the symptoms I would get, starting to get within 4 hours after they start spraying heavily. The way to identify these programs is a normal jet contrail is ice crystals, and it goes away shortly after the jet plane. There are some very rare instances when it might linger, but these you'll see. Today's a beautiful day. I'm not seeing anything, but you watch the skies and believe me, you're going to see jets going by, leaving long trails that expand, make what looks like cirrus clouds that turn into silver haze. By the end of the evening, you're going to see bright pink and orange sunsets. And that's when the programs are the heaviest. So look for that. I also want to talk about whistleblowers. We need more, more whistleblowers, and we do have some that have come forward. The former Premier of British Columbia has spoken out against these programs. There's a Dr. Russell Blaylock, MD, and he's a neurosurgeon, talks about how the aluminum is affecting our neurological system, and it increases the inflammation in our bodies. And most of us, when we go to the doctors, they talk about inflammation in the bodies. Well, this very well could be one of the primary reasons that it could be affecting that. We also have a former FBI Bureau Chief, Ted Gunderson, who came out against these programs, and actually he gave it a name, and that is death dumps. And he was very outspoken regarding these programs on geoengineering. There are 3 former military officers and retired commercial pilots who have spoke out. We also have another woman, Kristen Megan, who talks about that she had logged in chemicals when she worked for Tinker Air Force Base, and it was very confidential, and they would deliver stuff from the contractors, but their names would be crossed out. So anyway, I encourage you again to research this. This is a flyer that we have at our booth, and there's information on the back as well. So please go over and get a copy of this and read some of the information and documentation on these programs. The other flyer that we have at our booth talks about aerosol pollution and how it affects our public health. This also has information about the side effects of the chemicals like aluminum, barium, strontium, titanium. And I'll just mention a couple. With aluminum, it affects inflammation, pulmonary disorders. It passes through the blood-brain barrier and has been shown to disrupt blood flow to the brain. Barium also affects the muscle weakness, changes in the nerve reflexes, swelling of the brain and liver, stomach irritations, and strontium builds up into the body, and it's a radioactive material. So please be sure to pick up one of these flyers as well at our booth, and there's also information on the back of that. So I encourage you to get that. We also have another flyer that I'd like to recommend. It's called Staying Healthy in a Toxic World. And we have information about vaccines, food additives, natural chemicals, sweeteners, fluoride, pharmaceuticals, geoengineering, GMOs. So this is a flyer that we have, and I encourage you to pick up a copy of that as well. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the consequences of these programs. And as I mentioned, there's health issues that we're concerned about, but there's other issues, and that includes how it affects our crops and crop production. California, one of their biggest revenue is crop production. And so when you put reflective materials in the air, what it does is it blocks out the sunlight. When you block out the sunlight, you don't get the photosynthesis that you need to grow crops. So we have evidence that there's a reduction in crop production. I've talked to several farmers that indicate that. And also, we're concerned about the trees. The trees make the oxygen that we breathe and the algae. The trees and the oxygen are dying at alarming rates, so we need more research. We need scientists to come forward, we're working right now with 2 retired biologists that have helped us tremendously. But if you know anybody that'll come forward and help us with some of these programs, please have them contact me. One of the other concerns we have is with our fires, you know, in California primarily, but this is happening all over the world. There's fires now that are burning so hot and for so long they can't get them out. Well, aluminum and barium, well, aluminum primarily is a conductor, and they use it in ammunition. They also use it in fireworks. They use barium and strontium in fireworks. So that's another thing. I love fireworks, but you don't want to be standing too close to fireworks. When you see all that smoke around the fireworks, just know those are toxic chemicals that you're breathing. So those are the same type of military type chemicals that they use. Those are the chemicals that we're finding in these aerosol programs. And we're concerned that the aluminum in the grasses and the trees is why they can't get these fires out. And so you need to kind of watch this summer when we've got fires that go on months at a time. You might think about how much aluminum and toxic chemicals are in the fires. So there are many concerns that we have regarding these environmental issues, and we need more people to come forward. The more people we have, the more power we have. And that's why I put this organization together, this event together, trying to get different nonprofits working together so that when we lobby, we have more power, we can make a difference in our community and hopefully worldwide. This movement, when I first started, people were indicating I was crazy, I didn't know what I was talking about. This movement has grown, and since 2006, we have events and rallies and marches all over the world. One of the good websites to check is Global March Against Geoengineering and Chemtrails, I believe. You can research that a little bit more. But there's going to be a march on this, and we're going to have one in Old Sacramento, and that's going to be, I think it's April 23rd. April 24th is an event on Earth Day. There's UC Davis Earth Days. So I encourage everyone to look at our calendar on our website, which is environmentalvoices.org, and find out about those events and help support us. We need people coming out. We need the legislative people to know that we mean business, that they need to be supporting us and not major corporations. And they have an open door policy, so I'm encouraging people to go in, talk to their legislative people, and see if we can't work out a solution to get some of these programs stopped, or at least tell the people what's going on and disclosing this information so that we can protect ourselves, our family, our pets, and try to see what we can do to make a better environment to live in. So again, geoengineering, there's several websites out there. I encourage you to do your own research on the subject, because as my friend told me, it's too big. I can't explain it. You have to go and do your own research. and there's documentation, and there's 2 lawsuits now that we're trying to get going. One that's going to be through Canada, I believe, and Joe Marmon's here kind of working with that program. And then we have another one that we're trying to start. And so these lawsuits, I think, will make a difference. We're going to be lobbying the United Nations. There's people here that are going to be speaking about those events. And we are going to make a difference. I know it. And we have to unite, we have to organize, and we have to support each other. So I want to thank you very much again for being here, and thank you for your support.
I'm going to sing one more song about geoengineering. We have an incredibly blue sky today. For some reason, they've been leaving us alone for like the past 10 days, and that's been marvelous. But these songs that I write come out of the suffering of seeing the white lines in the sky day after day that shroud our sky with a really toxic feel and sense and look. This song is called Up, Up in the Sky. Up, up in the sky, there they go again. The chemtrail planes, they're flying high. They don't want you to know, so they lie and deny the truth. I wonder who they think they are, laying down white lines to spoil the blue. I wonder why, I wonder how people can doubt what they see in plain view. Up, up in the sky, there they go again. The chemtrail planes, they're flying high. But they don't want you to know, so they lie and deny the truth. They say it's not happening, it can't be. Why would the government do that to you and me? That what you and I see is illusion, is madness, is conspiracy. They say it's just ice. They only want to talk nice. Can't they see how the atmosphere's changed by the chemtrails from the planes they've arranged? Up, up in the sky, there they go again. The chemtrail planes, they're flying high. They don't want you to know, so they lie and deny the truth. But you and I, we can plainly see that the skies are strewn with whitish goo made of barium, strontium, biologicals too, emitting fibers that grow inside of you, emitted from planes arcing high, while the people below struggle to survive, while the people below breathe gas and die. Thank you, Deborah.
Wait. Okay, next up is our featured keynote speaker, Michael J. Murphy, the producer of what in the world are they spraying and why in the world are they spraying. These are two of his works that are multi-awarded. He is currently working on his third production, a call to action film, which addresses chemtrail geoengineering programs and is titled Unconventional Gray. Michael is in meetings with attorneys to discuss filing a class action suit that will focus on damages that have resulted from ongoing geoengineering programs. He's also working with political leaders around the world to develop political initiatives aimed at banning geoengineering practices. It is my great pleasure and honor to introduce Michael J. Murphy.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. I want to say it's really an honor and a pleasure to speak and to work with many of you. Today is a beautiful day because we've come together with common goals, even though we have many different issues. Our common goal collectively is to empower humanity and to activate people in moving forward with whatever our respective calling is. Today we're moving forward with our third film titled Unconventional Gray, which addresses geoengineering in relation to the climate change agenda. And today, for the first time in humanity, we have an issue that impacts every country, every municipality, and every person on the planet. That's the issue of geoengineering. And today, we look at this issue and how it relates to legislative steps and legal steps. Today, we have the climate change agenda, which seeks to develop a structure to legalize many different mandates, including geoengineering, without our input and without the input of our legislators. And today, it is incumbent upon those of us who are aware of this globalization which seeks to strip power, not only from our states, from our countries, but each individual. And if we were to allow this to mature, it would remove our ability to even do what we do today, and that is to have a voice in these and other important issues. So I ask today that you question what's going on, not only in our environment, not only at our state capitol, but what's going on in the world scene, and how is this global governance being established, and what can we do to stop it? I want to be clear. This global government that's being established is not respective of our legislators here at the Capitol. It does not respect your individual rights. It does not respect what we eat, what we say. It does not respect what we do. It respects its agenda, and their agenda, without question, is to legalize geoengineering and other mandates. I want to be clear with the approach that we're taking. Geoengineering programs, they're designed to manipulate our weather, and they're designed to change the temperature of our planet. They've been ongoing for several years, over a half of a century. They're not included in climate models. And when we look at certain issues, and especially the legal and legislative dimensions of this issue, the root of the problem is climate models. Everything that we see, including the whole idea of geoengineering, is based on climate models that source CO2 as being the cause of our climate change. Those of us who are aware of geoengineering know without certain that geoengineering is responsible for most, if not all, of our changes. And because it's being excluded from climate models, it makes the climate models completely inaccurate and completely bogus. And you cannot move forward with mandates, with legislations, and stripping away our rights, including freedom of speech, based on bogus models. And that's a fact. So how do we stop geoengineering? Well, it's already occurring. But the legalization of these programs is critical, because today we can take both legal and legislative steps to address this. If we allow the climate change agenda to reach full maturity, we will not have that right. We will not have that ability. And as a matter of fact, the Obama administration is talking about prosecuting people who do not go along with the climate change agenda. Folks, our time is short. But we have a plan, and it's to move forward in stopping, not the climate change agenda, but getting court injunctions to stop the climate change agendas until geoengineering stops. And with that, with our model, it's a model of unity because there are powerful corporations that have contracts related to the climate change agenda. And if we stop those contracts, if we stop the agenda from moving forward until geoengineering is stopped, we can bring unity on both sides of the global warming, the climate change agenda, and those of us who are aware of this, we now have a vested interest in stopping geoengineering for good. So our first step in this process is to take airplanes up into the trails. And this has proven to not be a simple task, but we're moving forward in unconventional gray in our call to action. That is going to be critical. And with that, we can bring this model, we can bring testing to regions around the world and conclusively prove that geoengineering is occurring and it is impacting our climate. Part B is to take our legal model, which again seeks to bring unity, not only from the corporate structure, from the legal structure, but also governmental structures who benefit from the climate change agenda so that they can effectively stand with us and demand that geoengineering is stopped for good. And folks, this is the key. It's unity. And after looking at all of our work, we see many attacks, whether it's personal, whether it's political, whether it's within our work. Bottom line is, folks, judgment is not going to solve our problem. It is unity. So we have to look at the way that we fundamentally move forward in addressing our respective issues. And today we have an incredible opportunity to come together, to unify, and to move forward lock and step, to stop, folks, the many efforts to seize our very words. And that starts with each and every one of us. So I ask that you look at the attempts to divide us, look at the attempts to get us pulled into certain areas, and ask the question, what can we do to unify? How can we move forward? How can we identify, unify, and move forward in stopping these and other damaging programs? Folks, I invite you today to come out tomorrow on Thursday. And Deborah, if you could share with me, where is our event on Thursday?
It is at South Natomas Library.
South Natomas. Natomas Library. We will be screening Unconventional Gray and talking about our call to action interaction plan. And folks, I can't stress today, right now, we have enough people to move forward. Those of us who are aware of this have got to get together and we have to move forward quickly. So I think what is very critical is that we take the knowledge that we have, we take the people that we have, and we move forward in addressing each respective issue in the most prudent way possible. So come with us on Thursday to strategize, to listen to our game plan and see if this will work for you. Again, Unconventional Gray. I am Michael J. Murphy. 7 o'clock on Thursday. We invite you to come with and strategize with how to put an end to geoengineering and other damaging programs. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out today. God bless you.
All right, next up is Patrick Roddie. He is a geoengineering activist and researcher from San Francisco, California. He brought his paper, Human Health Impacts of Proposed Geoengineering Solutions, to the July Paris Climate Conference and Istanbul Security Conference. He has also testified on aircraft pollution at the Environmental Protection Agency in Washington, D.C. It's my pleasure to introduce Patrick Roddie.
Hello, how are you? Okay, so I'm Patrick, and I am just another concerned ticked off human being. So we're all here because we're under attack. We got vaccines. The vaccine, if you read the vaccine insert, it says section 8.1, it can sterilize you and give you a miscarriage. Same thing with GMOs and smart meter, all these sort of things. And we are under attack by a mob. Most people aren't sociopaths, so it's hard to understand how someone could, drop a bomb on a playground. But there are people who exist, and they lack empathy. If you look at in a playground, you'll have little kids ganging up on each other. That is a mob. It's a predator/parasite class, and you'll see it. Unfortunately, this is another fractal of it. Pay your property taxes or bad things happen. It's just like the mob. And at the very top, the fractal goes up, and it's a global mob. And these guys have always been into depopulation. And yes, geoengineering, that term suggests weather control, and sure, that's part of it, but it is having a devastating effect on human health. In 2011, respiratory failure overtook stroke to become the third leading cause of death in the United States. And 2 weeks ago, the Scottish Statistical Office released their mortality statistics for 2015. From 2014 to 2015, the death rate from respiratory failure went up 13.8% in 1 year. This is serious. This is mass slaughter, and it has to stop. But you think, well, what can we do? I mean, the planes are up there, there's nothing we can do. That's what the GMO people, when they first started saying, these might not be entirely safe, but through education and just keeping at it and just being ticked off, eventually most people now, if you give them a choice between GMO and organic, they will always pick natural, non-GMO organic. So to raise this awareness, what do we do? First of all, activists are already taking photographs of the spray days when you have these persistent contrails and these incredibly rare sundogs, which are barium based. And a good thing to do, like I said, I hope this goes out on YouTube, you need to call your coroner's office and find out, you keep track of the days with the heavy spray days, you call your local coroner and find out how many people died, on which day, and from what. And also, you can also go to your general hospitals, find out who goes into the emergency room, who's admitted, get that data, and spread it around. Because this pyramidal structure of power that exists, and it's in everything. I mean, it's in the military, education, ecclesiastical, whatever, companies, same sort of thing, chairman down to the janitors. It only stays in place while it's supported by the layers in between. And these poisons, and that's what they are, poisons, being sprayed, there are countermeasures for them. For example, with aluminum, there's a protein that was developed at Tulane University, I found out about this last April, which will extract aluminum from living tissue and expel it from the body. And there's other filtration and expensive equipment and stuff that the guys at the top get. But the guys beneath them, way down, I mean, you have all your, like the weathermen who say, oh no, nothing's going on. These politicians, oh no, nothing's going on, down to the shills. They don't get that memo. And we need to appeal to their self-interest because they're selfish people. We need them to realize, hey, this is hurting me and it's hurting the people I care for. My families, my friends, my whatever, my dog. And once we get that message embedded, that this is very freaking bad. And again, I want people all over the world to see this and do this basic research. And you can also tie it in. There's this fantastic NASA resource called NASA Worldview. It's at earthdata.nasa.gov. And you can see where the spraying's happening all over the place. And it is all over the place. Moscow, Beijing, Switzerland, Israel, it's global. And if we get the amount of awareness that exists in the GMO thing out to people that is killing a whole bunch of people, when they finally do come out and say, oh yeah, we've been doing it to save you from global warming, everyone will know that is BS, and they'll be chased away with torches and pitchforks, and that's our goal. We need to get the message out, because they are going to come out and say, yeah, we had to do it because of whatever. And if we get ahead of that, we will win. And don't be concerned. I mean, we spend a lot of our time on social media, and when you go on social media and you say something, hey, you know, these clouds look weird, you will get attacked within about a minute or two. You have the shields. There are ways of doing that. I mean, Monsanto hires shields to protect GMOs. The big pharma hires shields to attack people who are not so sure about vaccines or the way we're being drugged as a nation or a globe. So, but what you do, you just talk to people on the bus, on the street, in the supermarket. You just strike up a conversation and say, hey, did you notice such and such? And you'll be surprised there's a lot of people already do. They're never going to admit that we have this awareness, but it's getting there, and it really makes them nervous. And you don't need to have degrees or some anointed thing from above. Oh yes, you're an authority. No, all you have to do, you get the basic research. It's super easy. You just watch the skies, check out the mortality statistics, there you go. And we do need to, unfortunately, our environmental organizations have all been taken over. For example, Greenpeace is a member of the Solar Radiation Management Governance Initiative, and they get money from Gates and Carnegie. So Gates and Carnegie publicly fund geoengineering, and Rockefeller and all these other ones are all on board with it. So we're not going to get the organizations themselves to do it, but the people who join those organizations who actually care about the planet, we need to reach those guys. And we can, like anytime you see someone with a clipboard about Greenpeace, yeah, I'll mention about the, the membership of the SRMGI, but then when I tell them about the enormity of this crime, they are concerned. I was up in Tuolumne County, it's up in the mountains this past weekend. The trees are devastated. I was talking to a guy there, he's lived there like 40 years, he's never seen this much devastation in the trees. And it's not just one kind of tree, because the talking point is, oh, because of the drought, it weakened the trees, so a certain beetle attacked a certain tree. No, all the trees are dying. These are very old trees, and they're dead from like the top third down, and it's devastation, and it's massive devastation to the entire planet. These guys, I call them the scumbags. They are just straight up evil. There is such a thing as good and evil. Dropping bombs on playgrounds, evil. Ice cream puppies and babies, good, you know? Well, most babies. So it is a spiritual battle, and you should listen to your gut and just go with it, because you do get help, and we can win this thing. And the other thing is, we need to fight this with compassion and love, because you'll hear people say, oh, we got to go out there, like, oh, just shoot the pilots or something, whatever. All that's going to do is get sympathy for their widow and children. That's the wrong way of doing it. We need to tempt them over with how good it is on this side of the fence, and we'll win it. So, oh yeah, I have a website if you want to check that out. It's stopsprayingus-sf.com. But you really, just go out and talk to people. You don't need to know everything. You just need to know enough and just start the conversation. You can learn as you go along, and a determined minority always wins. We're a determined minority. We're ruled by a determined minority. So yes, it would be great to have everyone along with us. The more the merrier, but as a small, whatever size group we are, an individual can do a whole lot of good. So just go out there and do it. So, all right, so yay us. All right, that's it.
Okay, our next speaker is David Braun. He's the co-founder of Americans Against Fracking and New Yorkers Against Fracking. Working closely with Californians Against Fracking, a coalition of over 200 organizations, David co-founded Roots Keeper, a nonprofit project which facilitates grassroots action and builds power. He recently directed the film Faith Against Fracking, and he was the grassroots coordinator for the films Gasland and Gasland 2. It's my privilege to introduce to you David Braun.
I'm going to adjust this so y'all can hear me. Anybody heard of fracking before?
David.
Raise your hand.
Just pull it up.
There we go. Let's see. Okay. Has anybody heard of fracking before? Has anybody, I should ask a different question. Anybody not heard of fracking? Fracking? It's a process of oil and gas extraction where they take toxic chemicals, they put it into the ground at very high pressure to fracture rock. Did you know that that's how most of the oil and gas is being extracted in the country right now? So when they talk about this energy revolution, they're talking about filling our ground with toxic chemicals. This is what our children are going to inherit. On average, they put about 400,000 pounds of toxic chemicals into the ground. Of these chemicals, we know that, and this is per well. So so every year, there's about 40,000 new wells that go in. And of those 400,000 pounds of chemicals that go into the ground, 32% cause cancer, 43% are genetic disruptors, 58% are immune suppressants. This is what we're leaving for our children. These chemicals do not biodegrade. They will be in our environment for likely thousands of years, if not longer. So this is the energy frontier that is being proposed to continue being expanded across the country and here in the state of California. What we've come to find out, though, that in California, it's not just fracking that is an issue. It's also all oil and gas development. In fact, the California Council on Science and Technology, which are independent science, California Council on Science and Technology, are folks from the UC system, as well as Lawrence Livermore Labs. They did a study, a 2-year study that was paid for by our government to look into stimulation such as fracking, acidizing, and other forms of well stimulation to pull out oil out of the ground. And what they found was that there's serious problems with things like fracking, that they found that likely our shallow aquifers in the state of California, that we have unique geology in the state of California. Our drinking water aquifers are very shallow. And so they found that there is a good likelihood that our water would be contaminated from fracking. So this is one thing that our state scientists found. Of course, nothing has been done about this, so the practice continues, still putting our water at risk. The other thing they found is that it's not just fracking and acidizing that's the problem. They're also finding that the oil and gas industry are using chemicals like hydrofluoric acid indiscriminately. So in places in Los Angeles, they are doing oil drilling, and they'll pour hydrofluoric acid down the well. And when they do that, they're not actually telling the state what they're doing, because they don't have to, because it's not considered well stimulation, but they're putting in a very highly toxic chemical right next to where kids live, go to school, etc., people work. And so on one side of a wall, you'll have people that are dressed in protective gear, hazmat suits, and on the other side of the wall, you have children playing basketball. And so they identified, the state scientists identified that this is a problem, but yet nothing has been done about it, mostly because it is poor people, African Americans, Latino communities that are having this done in their community. And so it's the same old story, nothing really gets done. But meanwhile, our children are getting poisoned, high rates of asthma, nosebleeds, cancer rates are high. And this is the story of what happens in some communities because we are continuing to extract oil and gas in the state of California. So it's not just fracking that is an issue here, it's actually all oil development. Because it really isn't a whole lot of oil in the ground anymore, they have to use very extreme methods to pull it out of the ground, including the toxic chemicals used in fracking and things like hydrofluoric acid when they're doing acidizing. So, the study came out that I just referred to last July. It came out on July 9th, and nothing happened. So, as a result of this, we are actually going to be holding a health forum here at the Westminster Presbyterian Church on April 18th. So mark your calendars. I have flyers here. April 18th at 6:30 p.m. right over here at Westminster Presbyterian Church. We are having some of the scientists who performed this study along with community members where this drilling is going on to come and talk about the health impacts that they're experiencing and why they're experiencing health impacts. Now, why are they experiencing health impacts? Well, last year the oil industry spent $22 million lobbying in this building. $22 million. They're paying $22 million to continue poisoning poor people in the state of California. Our legislature is being bought and sold by the oil industry in the state of California, and it's time that it stopped. We cannot allow poor people, no matter who anyone is, they deserve the dignity to grow up in their communities and not be poisoned. And these people in this building have a responsibility to protect them. So, we have a responsibility to do something about it, and so that's what we're doing. So that's why we're having this health forum, again, April 18th, over here at the Westminster Presbyterian Church. We will be live streaming the event around the state. The legislators that are taking money from the oil industry don't want to hear this story because most people are essentially good and they want to believe that this money that they're taking and the blind eye that they're turning isn't that big of a deal. They want to tell themselves that people aren't getting hurt. They deny it inside of themselves. It's denial. But we have to remind them that this has effects on people's lives, and we are poisoning not only the climate by extracting this oil, but we're poisoning our communities. And we should all be collectively ashamed. But those of us that do something about it don't have to be. And so that's why we're taking action. We're simply taking action so that we can say that we took part in the solution. And the reality is that there is a revolution coming. We are not going to allow our children to be poisoned so that toxic industry can continue. We fundamentally have to change the way that business is done. I used to run a business. I agree, yes, we have to feed business. Business has to continue. People should be able to make money if they invent something. They should be able to make money off of it. But business, the needs of business cannot supersede the health of the general public, right? And the needs of business should not control our government. Our laws cannot be decided by what's good for the economy because we will all be poisoned and dead. There are no jobs on a dead planet. Let me say that again. There are no jobs on a dead planet. And we are slowly but assuredly destroying the life support systems that we all need on this planet. So we need to stop it. Now, I'm working on oil. I know that there's a lot of other folks that are working on other issues here. And I think as long as you're doing something, I want to support everyone that's trying to do something to stop the insanity that's happening on this planet, trying to use these toxic chemicals are not a solution to the problems that we're facing. And putting more toxic chemicals out into the environment is not going to get us to the destination of where we need to be, which is a healthy planet with a great place for our children to grow up in. We love our kids. Our kids don't need to have benzene in their cereal. Want to mention a couple of things. Go to toxicpledge.org. Toxicpledge.org is we are signing people onto the Toxic Protection Pledge, which is just basically asking that we no longer do certain practices like use oil and gas wastewater to irrigate our crops. You may not know this, but in 4 different water districts here in the Central Valley, they are not filtering oil wastewater, and then they are using it, they're diluting it, and they're using it to irrigate crops. They're using it to irrigate organic grapes, they're using it to irrigate almonds, cuties, halos, you know those? They're using this oil and gas toxic, and they found benzene in this wastewater. They found all sorts of, a whole host of toxic chemicals in this wastewater. So if you want to help stop that, 2 things. Go to toxicpledge.org, sign the Toxic Protection Pledge, get your legislators to sign onto the Toxic Protection Pledge, toxicpledge.org, and come to our health forum on April 18th here at the Westminster Presbyterian Church, just right here on the other side of the Capitol. I have flyers for that. If you want to get those out in your community, please help us get the word out. The thing that darkness hates the most is the light. And it is time that we shine our light onto these dark places where bad things are happening. And that way, we will bring an end to all of this. Thank you so much for all you guys do. God bless you guys.
All right. How's everyone doing? All right, beautiful day. I'm going to do a song that I wrote called Wake Up. It's about waking up from the American dream, the one that is materialistic and driving us down the path to destruction. so much. Appreciate it. So if you go on Facebook, you can hear some of my recordings with done with various bands. James Israel Band on Facebook. So this is a new one I wrote recently called Revolutionary. Appreciate it. All right. Do I have one more or is that it? One more. One more. All right. Okay, go Marty. Struggles taking place. Leaders trying to save face where we live in. Freedom's lost by degrees. They cut down the last trees, bringing the economy to its knees. Isn't it a sin? Profits make killing fair. Lost the truth in TV glare. Doesn't anyone see? Selling arms like toys to boys. cities are being destroyed. Heard it on cable news, noise, no place left to flee. Interest, perfectible time, while native peoples have to walk. The bomb is wired to the clock. There isn't much time. They're raping the earth for a quick buck. Wishing conservation is good luck. Shipping out the wilderness on a logging truck. Handing us a line. It's all confused, and if you're feeling a bit misused, just take a little pill. They say that there's relief in store, and that's what's all the panic for. Let's just have us a little war, that'll pay the bill. Concerned about what their conference stock has earned, the rest of us are getting burned. So what else is new? Well, maybe if I look the other way, maybe it'll all just go away. I've said all, and I can't say what else can I do. Said what else can I do about it? What else can I do? What else? Oh, now what else can one man do? Now what else? Oh, now what else can we do? Oh, now there must be something. So there must be something. Oh, there must be something. Oh, we can do about it, y'all. All right.
So hey, it's David Braun here again. I just wanted to quickly mention to you kind of an inspirational story that I'm hoping that you might be able to take with you today. I started working on fracking 6 years ago in the state of New York. And I had environmentalists with environmental organizations within the Capitol, very similar to here, that told me that we would never keep the fracking industry out of the state of New York. They said it was absolutely inevitable that the frackers were going to come in and frack our water, frack our land. These are friends of ours that looked us dead in the eye and said, you're never going to keep them out, forget about it. 6 years later, we banned fracking in the state of New York on the basis that it was toxic. And so it's the lesson that we took away is nothing is inevitable. No matter how big that industry is, you have to fight for what's right, organize, and of course try and be as strategic as possible, but don't believe the smug ones. Don't believe the ones who are so assured that they know what's right. Oh, I've been working in the Capitol for years. I know the way politics work. That's BS. You fight for what's right. You fight to protect your water, your air, your children. And then you let the inevitability of that fight lead. But that we are going to lose is not inevitable. What is inevitable is that we are going to save the world for our children. So please keep that in your heart as you leave today. This is something that we can win.
Our next speaker is Mauro Oliveira. He's the founder of SOL Communications, a direct action nonprofit involved in multiple regional and global issues from drone warfare to geoengineering. He is the producer of Small World Radio, based out of Reading and Santa Cruz. Mauro has produced several documentaries as well as public service announcements and a wealth of other environmental multimedia, some of which was recognized by the United Nations and the Clinton administration. He has been tracking global extinctions for the last 30 years and is here to present that information. Here he is, Mauro Oliveira.
Wow, what a wonderful crowd we have today. I feel like doing stand-up. Can you believe where we are? We're about to have an election that half of America thinks we're going to vote in a socialist or a Clinton. The other half thinks we're going to vote in a lunatic or a religious fanatic. But we have this backdrop, and I was surprised that Governor Braun said it at COP21 this last winter when he said human beings face extinction. It was very surprising hearing it from him, but what wasn't surprising was the reaction all over the world that comment got, which was very little. Humanity has not yet come to a realization or a grip of exactly where we are. There's, by the clock that keeps pace with the poachings of the elephant in the wild, we have 3,100 and some days until the elephants are extinct in the wild. That's 9.5 years. I have a friend who works in Tanzania, and she's identifying giraffes for whatever kind of strategy they can create to save them, and she says they'll be just 5 years behind the elephant. Before we go into what right does this generation have to allow that, let me continue with what's happening. From 1970 to 2010, that's 40 years, half of the life on Earth perished. In less than my lifetime, half of the Earth's life has perished. And to show the dramatic incline of that, what amphibians were around in the year 1999 to now have halved again. When I say these things to people, I could be standing talking to 5 or 6. When I walk away, there might be, if I'm lucky, one of them laying on the floor, dealing with the reality of it. But most people just let it go on by from a mixture of what can I do to how am I going to feed my kids tonight. The vaquita dolphin, or I'm sorry, the vaquita porpoise. It lives in the Sea of Cortez. This is one of the most beautiful and uniquely strange looking creatures on the planet. It's just barely the size of a teenager. It's a miniature porpoise. Just 2 years ago, they were saying there were 80 or less. Sea Shepherd has been working to get a photograph. In 7 months, they got a photograph of one. They believe there's only 30 individuals left. The vaquita. Over on the other side of the world, off New Zealand, there's the Maori. There's about 30 of those. They're saying there's only 8 females that can bearing age. The northern white rhino, there is 2 females and 1 male left. The western black rhino perished 2 years ago in October. On my arm, as a reminder every day what I'm doing here, this is the Baiji dolphin, perished in 2006. The web of life is unweaving, and it's unweaving right at us, at our children. There's a gentleman named Guy McPherson who has crunched the numbers with the methane expulsions going on in the Arctic. There's very little chance with his numbers that humanity will be around in 200 years, possibly 30 years. Any generation that was to hear these facts and absorb them would begin to unify and prioritize. Our laws, our oppressors, our capitalism, our governance would no longer have authority on us. We would be guided by our inner connection with our Creator. And the DNA that has been fluorided, chloride, chemtrailed, GMO, down in all that DNA, there is a survival gene that we have to bring forward, and it's directly attached to love. Without love, without joy, without the courage to stand up at every turn of the road, to not buy plastic, to stand against those who make it and make it criminal as fast as we can, we will certainly perish. I'm not the life of the party. There's an extinction curve going on. There's been 6 extinctions on the planet. We are the 6th. It's called the 6th Great Extinction. National Geographic has done it. Everybody's done it for a minute. For a second, it's in the news. Yet every day, it's the background, it's the bed in which we lay. All these other issues, what's going on in our sky, fracking, all these are the sheets and the clothing. The bed is our extinction. Go home and talk about this. Talk to your neighbors. It's easy to get the numbers. The rate of extinctions on planet Earth exceeds all 5 other extinctions, including that which took the dinosaurs. I don't know how they know this, but nobody's disputing that. 10,000 times faster than normal. 2 dolphins should perish on Earth with 1 million years between them, and we're doing them every couple of years. Our children do not stand a chance with the patriarchy running the show. Women have to decide, because men are going to watch the world die. I ask the Creator to bless our hearing, bless our words each day, and our children and our future. Aho. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Ciyin Olivera. He's a direct action activist who has been attending youth action camps sponsored by the Civil Liberties Defense Center. He has spoken before many regional boards, including the California Air Resources Board and the California Board of Forestry, and has participated in the shutdowns at Monsanto, Nestle's, Alhambra, and the Port of Oakland during Occupy movement. He is also a trained tree sitter and participated in the Earth First sit at Strawberry Rock. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Ciyin Olivera.
Over 99% of all old-growth forest is gone. When explaining this to my fellow humans, most just ignore it. Something is very wrong. I feel like most humans are lacking humanity. My name is Ciyin Olivera. I've been watching the forest behind my house get destroyed over the years while I watch and cry. I don't understand why people who have been on this earth for such a short amount of time have the right to kill these beautiful trees that have been here for much longer than we have. In my opinion, the forest and all life within deserve to exist on this planet as much as humans, even though most of us think we are superior. The adults of this world believe that the youth don't understand what we need, so they make decisions for us, even though their decisions affect our future and not theirs. Last year, over 5 million acres in Alaska were burned, and over 1 billion trees in California have died due to drought last year. Why would we consider killing any more trees when carbon is the leading cause of global warming and trees sequester carbon, but they do not sequester carbon when they are laying in a timber yard? I don't understand my fellow humans. Red Emerson alone owns over 2 million acres of timberland. We cannot afford to lose all the trees he plans to cut. When clear cutting is done, many different types of trees are murdered, and the timber companies usually only plant one tree to replace everything, which is the ponderosa pine. What about all the diversity? What about all the animals that depend on the other trees for food and shelter? What about all the oaks, firs, and cedars that do not get replanted? I do not want a forest with just ponderosa pine. It's not just the trees or the animals who suffer. Even the microorganisms in the dirt get killed as well due to pesticides and herbicides that get sprayed after clear cuts. Most water is polluted as well because of all these chemicals. 100 years ago, you could drink from almost any stream. Now I wouldn't dream of it because I would likely get an illness. Trees are considered a renewable resource. They are a renewable resource, but not at the rate we are cutting them. There is roughly 6 billion trees a year that get cut. It is impossible to replace that at the rate we are taking it. No one should be able to own land since this is all stolen land. Stolen from the natives and the animals and other life. It is almost too late. If we do not stop everything, if we do not stop now, everything on this earth could die because we all depend on trees. I want my great-grandchildren to be able to experience the same beautiful forest that my great-grandparents had. We do not need to cut trees. Paper and building materials can be made out of hemp and other renewable resources. We are stealing from the next generations. I am coming to everyone today as a youth, begging for everyone to stop being so foolish and do what needs to be done. It is time to chain yourself to heavy equipment or take it apart. Set up tree sits. Anything is better than nothing. Forget the law. The law is only protecting those who seek to destroy this earth. We need to save the forest for the next generations. Thank you. My brother was going to be here today, but he isn't feeling so well. So I'm going to talk in his spot for a little bit about water. In every layer of our biosphere, water is being polluted. Fracking alone is comparable to nuclear waste because everywhere around it is destroyed for thousands of years. Scientists have positively linked earthquakes to fracking, and today, because of that, Oklahoma has more earthquakes than anywhere else on Earth. In our great Mother Ocean, there is every pollutant made by man. One in particular, plastic, is literally choking the life out of her. The life that is eating plastic is of every size and shape. Plankton, coral, birds, turtles, whales, and everything else is dying from plastic consumption. The food chain has been pierced by our own stupidity, and now plastic is in humans. And it continues. Fukushima radiates 300 tons of water every day through cooling efforts, and it is dumped into the sea every day. This will continue long past our epitaph. If we do not unite and earn honor in this biosphere. It is time to stop being foolish. It is time to stop being selfish. It is time to stand up for the future generations. Thank you.
Excellent message. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is Bob Sanders, who's going to talk to us about Crystal Geyser, Nestle, and Monsanto, otherwise known as Monsanto. Bob Sanders is a longtime civil rights, social justice, and human rights activist. He works on family court and various injustice issues, as well as environmental issues, from a position of doing the right thing. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Bob Sanders.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here. This is a really important day. It's about all the comprehensive issues that we're fighting, and sadly, we seem to be fighting them over and over again. Just when we think we've knocked out the TPP, we've knocked out, you can sue a lawsuit was filed against Arrowhead, owned by the Nestle Corporation in the forest. I just heard a couple of days ago, they went ahead and they passed it. I want to read you one thing. This is a quote by Cesar Chavez in regards to Cesar Chavez Day, March 31st, 2014. Once social change begins, it cannot be reversed. You cannot uneducate the person who has learned to read. You cannot humiliate the person who feels pride. You cannot oppress the people who are not afraid anymore. We need to be not afraid. It's unbelievable that we live in a country that, in the state of California, that just went through its 4th year of drought, and we got some water through El Nino this winter. We won't know for a while if it's going to replenish the groundwater and aquifers enough to make a significant difference, if there's enough snow on mountaintops for spring runoff that will feed the aquifers. We'll know soon, but we don't know yet. There are 110 water bottling plants in the state of California. All the water guzzling corporations who are attempting to privatize your water, most of them exist in the states that have droughts. There were some in Oregon and Washington who also underwent severe drought. They're doing a little bit better than us from El Nino rains. But anyway, you've got companies like Nestle that owns about 70 different brands of water, Arrowhead water, and a whole bunch of others that you may not even know when you're drinking it. Crystal Geyser, now owned by the Otsuka Pharmaceutical Company, who makes the drug Abilify that actually kills people, and they advertise that on TV as well. Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola, and the Niagara Bottling Company that are the largest massive water use and profiteers of our water, and they do it in times of drought. It doesn't matter to them. At the pristine headwaters in Weed, California, there's a battle going on now. Crystal Geyser has a plant up there where they pump 1.5 million gallons of water every single day. They're attempting to build another bottling plant, take over the old Coca-Cola bottling plant that was Danone Waters before, French maker of Danone yogurt, and they're attempting to build, put a plant online there to pump more water. By the time they're done, they'll be pumping approximately 300, in Mount Shasta, they'll be pumping 365 million gallons per year from that particular plant, in addition to what they're already taking from the Weed plant. And that's the headwaters. That's the water system that comes down here, goes to the Central Valley, feeds our agriculture, our farms, for us to grow food, to produce food that we feed at least 25% of the world, and we feed a larger portion of this country from what grows right down below us in the Central Valley, south of here. Another major factor that's going on is you have major investment corporations that are attempting to buy up all the water rights in this country. The Center for Research on Globalization, familiar with megabanks and investing powerhouses such as Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, UBS, Deutsche Bank, Credit Suisse, Macquarie Bank, Barclays Bank, Blackstone Group, Allianz, HSBC Bank, among others, are consolidating their control over water. Our water, it belongs to the public. It's part of the public commons. It's actually, in Europe, they consider it part of social democracy. Wealthy tycoons such as T.B. Boone Pickens, former President George Bush and his family, Hong Kong's Li Ka-ching, Philippines' Manuel V. Pangilinan, and other Filipino billionaires and others are also buying thousands of acres of land with aquifers, lakes, water rights, water utilities, and shares in water engineering technology companies all over the world. Water is the new oil, says oil man and corporate raider T. Boone Pickens. And Patrick used a great word. I'm from New York, so when we call people this, they really are them. These people are scumbags. Water is life. Water is not for profit. We need to take back our commons. We need to take back our water. These people in this building, and I've dealt with them. I was actually there, lobbying the past couple of weeks on some other bills. I believe they should all have to wear patches of all the corporations that fund them, just like NASCAR drivers. Then at least you'll know who you're up against. What do you guys think about that? Good. Besides Crystal Geyser and Nestle's, essentially my shirt says Crunch Nestle Alliance, strike team on the back. Mauro and three of his children have driven all the way down here from farther up Northern California, and they come and they support everything we do. He's my brother. There's nothing I would do for them. They're my adopted family, and I believe I'm part of theirs now too. One of the main things about it is it's really important. What we've done is we've shut Nestle's down 3 times. We shut Alhambra Water Company and Nestle's down on December 4th. We went up to Mount Shasta in August to meet with people and work on things and strategize and organize. And then we had a big event there that over 500 people were there in Mount Shasta Park. And I said to them, it's a lot easier to stop a water bottling plant from getting online than it is to shut them down. But if we have to, we'll come back here and we'll help you guys shut them down. My friend Vicky Gold and several really courageous people up there and several groups up there have really been diligent in fighting in weeds against the city council, fighting in Mount Shasta against the city council, and the mayor of the town in Mount Shasta used to work for the Coca-Cola bottling plant, be their plant manager. If that's not incestuous, I don't know what is. Last year, after we had shut down, this was on June 12, 2015, we called our event Barbarians at the Gate that my friend Andy Kahn had put together. We went to Governor Brown's loft on a Friday, and a bunch of water and anti-fracking activists. We protested drought deceptions and called for fracking and water bottling moratorium. In fact, another friend of mine, with input from Vicky, we wrote an actual governor's executive order that old Jerry Brown, actually he could have signed the one we gave him, but then we also had one for the media on a large poster. And but of course Jerry was a no-show, because this is disgusting what's going on. We need to shut them down. We need to shut them down. If we don't, nothing's ever going to change. And then there's the other twin tower of evil besides Nestle's, Monsanto. For 4 years actually, we've been the only group in the world that does 3 days of actions, direct actions. We lobby here. We shut down Monsanto. We've done it 7 times. They moved to Woodland. It's a little bit harder than it was in Davis. And then we have a party here. And but you have to think about it. Monsanto's the one who proposed the rule on preventive controls for human food, but they call it the FDA Food Safety Modernization Act. I mean, Joseph Goebbels could come up with a better propaganda term than that. But anyway, I've got to wrap up. I want to make announcement, there'll be a Thirsty for Justice film screening on Wednesday, April 27th at 6:30 p.m. at CSG in Sacramento, the former California State Guild, on 3830 U Street in Sacramento off Stockton Boulevard. It's a Sierra Club Sacramento group film series, and then also the Environmental Justice Center for Water is the group who have they're basically one of the co-producers and actually distributors of it. And then I want to read you my ending quote. The challenge remains on the other side of formidable forces, money, political power, the media, the major media. On the other side of the people of the world and a power greater than money or weapons, the truth. Truth has a power of its own. Art has a power of its own. That age-old lesson that everything we do matters is the meaning of the people's struggle everywhere. A poem can inspire a movement, a pamphlet can spark a revolution, civil disobedience can arouse people and provoke us to think. When we organize with one another, when we get involved, when we stand up and speak out together, we can create a power no government can suppress. We live in a beautiful country, but people have no respect for human life, freedom, or justice have taken it over. It's now up to all of us to take it back. Howard Zinn. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob Saunders. All right. Okay, next up is Anna Swenson. She joined the North Delta Cares organization and has diligently worked to advocate for the estuary and the preservation of the Delta way of life. It is imperative to her to fix the issues of water in California for the future security of all our children. Anna understands that plans like Governor Braun's twin tunnels leads to the privatization of water. Anna Swenson.
Hello, thank you for having me today. My name is Anna Swenson and I represent North Delta Cares. We're an organization that has been in existence, unfortunately, since the peripheral canals. In 1982, the peripheral canals were voted down because we all said we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to take California's water and divert it away from the Delta and over-engineer our water system and hurt the largest estuary in the West. And what immediately happened is they went back to the drawing board and they created other plans that were the exact same plans, except now in the year 2012, it is now in the form of a tunnel. I come from a place that has lots and lots of history. It was the beginning of the gold rush. While many of the gold rush fellows went over land, many came by sea. They arrived in San Francisco and took steamboat slough up the Sacramento River and stopped in Freeport and eventually ended up at Sutter's home and decided that they were going to fill up and head to Coloma and look for gold. The estuary is the largest estuary in the West. It is the home of a little tiny city named Locke. It is a city. And Locke is the oldest intact Chinese American town in the United States. Locke, unfortunately, sits in the... See, he's always trying to run away from me. Locke sits right in the heart, the bullseye of the BDCP or Cal Water Fix. What also sits in the construction path are many legacy towns, and unfortunately 300 farms that are owned by farmers who have been farming in the Delta for between 6 and 8 generations. All of those 300 farms are set to be taken by eminent domain, and which means that they are going to take farmers out of production who have successfully and ecologically farmed the Delta and provided us all with food for generations and generations, and they're going to trade that farmland, that prime farmland, for farmland that is in the desert, that has to be double irrigated, and does not provide food that we eat. Many of the almonds that are grown by Paramount Farms are sent to China. The water that is used is our water. Water is a public trust. We all own it. It's all of our problem, and it should be all under our care. The tunnels are a means to privatize water, the same way that they did with the Kern County Water Bank. The Kern County Water Bank originally was set to provide water for 160 farmers in the 30s, and it has now morphed into being owned by over 50% by Paramount Farms, a corporate agricultural group. That was never the intention of the Central Valley Water Project, and yet it has been manipulated and it has been taken, and that water is now not owned by us anymore. That water is owned by Paramount Farms and under the complete control of it. If we allow the water of the Delta to be bypassed and set into tunnels, that means that the water that goes through that tunnel no longer belongs to us, but belongs to corporate agriculture that can do whatever they want with it. They don't have to conserve, they don't have to be green, they don't have to be morally conscious. They can do whatever they want and receive a tax break for doing so. I am here to represent the farmers and the people of the Delta. We are a very slow-moving, calm group of people until you start talking about tunnels. We loved our area, we are good stewards. Our farmers take very, very good care of our land because we live, we work, we play, and we raise our children there. Our reclamation districts work very diligently to make sure that our levees are safe because their families live behind them, not the government. The government wants to come in and take over the Delta, take over all decisions about how the Delta is managed, how the levees are managed, and they want us to go away and shut up. And Governor Braun, your plan is only at 15% design phase. How do you know what impacts it's going to have when you haven't even spent the money or the time to actually create a full-fledged plan? Our group sits at just a couple blocks from here at the State Water Resources Board. And right now we're in the middle of a petition for the diversions that they want to put into the Delta. These diversions will cause 10 years of construction, noise, debris. It'll reduce our air quality. They will dewater our towns. They will dewater our homes. And there are absolutely no mitigation for the people of the Delta for the impacts that will happen from this project. We have been calling out for help. California, we need help. The estuary is what keeps the San Francisco Bay clean and healthy and alive. If you divert that water past through the Delta and divert it to the pumps at Clifton Court 4 Bay, the San Francisco Bay will have issues. And it's all about salt. And I could go on for 2 hours about salt, but if the tunnels are installed, the freshwater estuary, known as the California Delta, will turn into a saltwater marsh. The fish that live there will no longer be able to be sustainable, and the people there will no longer be able to farm because our land will become barren. We need your help, we need you to care, we need you to participate, and we need you to tell Governor Braun that his plan to take our water and privatize it in hopes that this time it might be okay, even though last time we have already learned it wasn't. We need to tell him no, this is not the time. They keep asking us for alternatives, and we have lots of them. Desalinization, drip irrigation. If the farmers in the Central Valley installed drip irrigation, they would save enough water to fill Hetch Hetchy 16 times. And yet they want to take the farmland of the Delta out of production so they can build tunnels. So please help us. Our website is www.northdeltacares.org, and we appreciate it, and we hope that you take a day out and come visit us, because we love you just as much as you will love us. Have a great day.
Next up is Christina Hildebrand, who started A Voice for Choice, a nonprofit organization to give like-minded concerned citizens an organization that will advocate for consumer choice in many areas and fight for transparencies about the true health effects of products so that consumers can make their own informed choice about what goes into their bodies and those of their children, and rise up and fight for those rights. Christina Hildebrand.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming out today. Thank you to all the volunteers. Thank you to Deborah for organizing this. I'm going to take this off of here. It's not standing up. So Voice for Choice was formed last year. We're a young organization. It was formed because I have been concerned with what goes into our bodies and our children's bodies. And last year when SB 277, which for those of you who are not aware, was the mandated vaccine bill that mandates vaccines for children to go to private and public school. When that came up, I realized that my dream for a nonprofit needed to happen now and not when I retired. So I started A Voice for Choice. We do have an umbrella kind of over anything that goes into your body. We want you to have informed choice, and we want you to have transparency over that so that you can make the choice of what goes into your body. The two things that we are fighting for this year in particular are continuing the vaccine issue and also the fluoride issue. On the vaccine issue, I would highly recommend anyone go see the movie Vaxxed when it comes out nationally. It is a movie called Vaxxed from Cover Up to Catastrophe. It's a movie about the CDC whistleblower who basically came out and said that the mRNA vaccine does cause autism but the study did not show that they had, because the government covered up and threw away that information into the trash can. Vaxxed was slated to be one of the final movies shown at the Tribeca Film Festival. It was pulled from there because there are two large pharmaceutical-based foundations that pulled it. It is slated now to go into the Manhattan Film Festival and has been at the Angelica Theatre with great crowds this last week. So when that comes out, I highly recommend it. And why do I say that? I say that because last year our there was $238 million spent lobbying from the pharmaceutical companies. There is so much money and corruption in our government, and so much is driven by that money. It's not only from vaccines. We know Monsanto has huge lobbying amounts going in too. We also know that 75%, according to a Gallup poll, 75% of Americans believe that corruption in our government is widespread. That's a crazy number. 75% of people believe there is corruption in our government. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's all to the CDC. It's all over the government. But we need to be aware that the pharmaceutical, the Monsantos of the world, all of those large lobbying companies, they own the government, and they're what's making our bills and our laws, not us, the people. We saw that last year with the vaccine bill. There were thousands of people that came to Sacramento, and they didn't change anything because the money was back there. The other issue that I mentioned that we're fighting this year is the fluoride issue. Sacramento water is fluoridated. There is a law that states that every city with over 10,000 spigots must be fluoridated if they get the money put in to have it fluoridated. So an outside entity needs to come in and put the money in. San Jose is the last city in California that is not fluoridated. They are slated to add fluoride from 2017 to 2020. We are trying to stop that. We're trying to put an injunction in on the water treatment plants. There are also initiatives in Marin and Sonoma to turn off the fluoride, hopefully going onto the ballot for 2016. San Diego is another city that also is fighting fluoride. So it's one of our issues that we've taken up because we are a nonprofit, so we have to choose our battles, but carefully. I think the main thing that I wanted to share with you today is what can you do? So, we've heard some great speakers, and there's a lot of issues that we really need to be concerned about, the toxins in our environment. But what can you and should you be doing? I would say first and foremost, talk to your legislators, have a relationship with those legislators. The relationships there, not only with the legislators, with your school boards, with your city councils, with those people getting elected. This is an election year. You get to choose who is elected. You get to choose who's up on those ballots. And you need to really investigate who you're voting for. I think America has been asleep for too long, and we need to work out who those people we want are in office and get them into office so that they can speak for us. There's also a number of bills in this building going through at the moment. There are two vaccine bills. There's a bill that advocates what Bob Saunders talked about of the politicians having to show where their money comes from, PACs having to show where their money comes from. When a PAC puts an ad on TV to say who the donors for that are, not just some nice fancy name. As I said, there's an initiative in Marin, Napa, Sonoma to get the fluoride out. If you live in those areas, please go sign that and support it. There is a CDC Truth Rally on April 22nd in Atlanta. If you can be there, please be there. We need to show the CDC that we are on them and we are holding them accountable for what they're doing. There's also, if you can't make it to that one, there's one in San Francisco, also on the 22nd. I encourage you to go there. As I said, support Vax, the movie. Other things that you can do, things like supporting our organic farmers. We need to keep the toxins out. Organic food is more expensive, but it's more expensive because it's not subsidized, and we need to keep those farmers going because we're losing our farmers. So I would say, all that you have seen today, support these people, but really become active within yourself, become active in your local community, create relationships with those people that make the difference, the legislators, the city council members, the water board district members, and really try to educate them, and educate one by one by one by one. That's all I have to say, and I just thank you for being here. I thank you for supporting all of these organizations, which are all amazing organizations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Eric Windheim. He is a building biologist and electromagnetic radiation specialist certified by the International Institute for Building Biology and Ecology. He founded Sacramento Smart Meter Awareness in June of 2012 that made the Sacramento Metropolitan Utility District allow the removal of smart meters and return of safe analog electric meters back. Eric is a sought-after public speaker and has spoken and presented at many SMUD board meetings, in fact over 93 times to date. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Eric Windheim.
Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, I never thought I'd be having to speak at public utility board meetings, but when they tried to slam one of those biologically experimental microwave relay stations on my bedroom wall, I just instinctively said, "Get off my property, you're trespassing," and never come back. And that worked. It was interesting this morning on the way in here in the parking lot, I saw one of the SMUD board directors getting out of his car. So it's a small world. Can you hear me okay? Or should I raise this up? I'm afraid to touch it, it might fall off. Okay, so we have a few things that I wanted to cover. If you want to talk further, get my card, call me later. I am a professional building biologist, and what that means is we are trained and certified to test to see if buildings are safe for human habitation. I want to point out that building biology and ecology is much different than being green. If you look at it, green is about saving energy. So people are worshiping the reduction of energy use and saving money, which is a great business model, by the way. But it has nothing to do with your health and safety. So be very, 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 very leery of so-called green technologies, such as compact fluorescent bulbs. Has anybody at any time here ever had a compact fluorescent bulb in their house? Okay, those are the spiral kind. They make tons of dirty electricity. They were promoted by the utilities with discounts, and we were all told and led to believe we should have them. Now the same thing is happening with LED bulbs, all in the same name of being green and saving energy. Be very wary of this sloganeering or greenwashing called green. It doesn't mean safe. Okay, some of the things I want to talk about here are my parents personally suffered from electromagnetic radiations exposure. You can go to my website and find out about it, but basically they had huge electromagnetic fields from wiring code violations and lots of dirty electricity from those compact fluorescent bulbs. Now all that led me to get involved as a professional in this area. And when SMUD threatened to put a smart meter on my house, that was the last straw. So why are utilities and corporations recommending all these technologies that can hurt us? I'm talking about wireless radiation. Now, I think most people probably have a cell phone, but did you know that, well, here's the cell phone. I use one. It's not even on most of the time. Do you know what the radiation level is today of microwave radiation compared to 150 years ago? It is 1,000,000 billion times higher. That's not a mistake. I've looked at 3 or 4 scientists, and they either say 100 million billion times or 1,000,000 billion times. It's billions and billions and hundreds of millions of billions of times higher than it was 150 years ago. So here's the big question. With wireless radiation, smartphones, laptops, tablets, microwave communications increasing the power density every 3 to 5 years, where will we be in 10 or 20 years? Okay, so many researching scientists say that in 5 generations, the human race will be effectively sterile. And that means that we will not be able to have viable offspring that can then duplicate. So before you get another tablet, before you get another iPhone, I want you to consider, maybe I should just use it for text rather than watching videos on it. Because when you watch a video on a smartphone or on a tablet or any other kind of wireless device, you're using 3,000 times more bandwidth than just making a phone call on a regular low-powered cell phone. So we're doing it to ourselves. Here's what's happening. Everybody wants this wireless technology because it's convenient. And it is. Corporations are selling the heck out of it and reaping profits of biblical proportion. So they're not going to warn you about the risks. The government says, wow, we get to tax all that corporate revenue, so keep on going, guys. So you have to do your own research. You have to decide what is safe. You cannot rely upon the government to look out for you. And here's the specific reason why. The FCC is a captured agency. Now, if you want to go to my booth over there and fill out a response slip, I'll show you the chart of who's in charge of the FCC. It's kind of like if we had the president of Brown and Williamson Tobacco and Philip Morris in charge of the Center for Disease Control. Now, we all know that'd be ridiculous. But the people that are in charge of the FCC today are from the wireless and telecom industry. So they're not going to say that any of this is dangerous. They're going to push it as long as they can. They're making enough money so they can win lawsuits or defend themselves when the people finally wake up. But in the meantime, I urge you to take precaution. Self-defense is the only thing that works right now. That's kind of like in a war, keep your head down. You have to stay out of the line of fire. You have to watch out for things like smart meters, Wi-Fi routers, cell phone towers. If you're pregnant, you want to stay away from electric stoves because even strong magnetic fields can induce miscarriage. If you're under 18, you should not be using a cell phone or a laptop or an iPad. And if your child's in public school, exposed to all that radiation, I'd strongly suggest that you start homeschooling your child just so that that child doesn't end up being a special needs child. Now, how can I say these things? They seem kind of outrageous. I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people that have been injured by smart meters right here in Sacramento County. And it took dozens of them down to SMUD with SMUD with sworn declarations of harm and injury. And by the way, SMUD says they don't believe any of this, even though we take up 95% of all the speaking time. I've read all the peer-reviewed reports. I've seen what happens to people when they're exposed to electric fields, magnetic fields, microwave radiation, dirty electricity. And many of my clients say, hey, I feel better as soon as you turn that off, or as soon as you fix this. You can go to my website. There's people there that say, as soon as he did this and changed that, I felt better. You can. And here's the thing you want to watch for. If you go to a house or a building and you feel bad when you get there and better when you leave, that's a sick building. And if you've got a sick building, there's something in there making you sick. And the more time you spend there, the sicker you'll get. The building biologists, we have a saying, you can't get well or stay well in a sick house, and you can't get well on a sick bed. And literally, some of my clients, they just move from one bedroom to another, and they start feeling better. So then the big question is, what's going on? Now this brings up another issue. The building inspection departments are not inspecting electrical wiring jobs properly. I see code violations in 1 out of 4 homes. Old, new, small, medium, and mansion-style homes. Building inspectors are not doing their job. They're not checking to see if the wiring is put in a code-compliant manner. So the big thing is, our politicians here, what they're doing is they're nodding to the lobbyists, and I've had lunch with them. They live right out there. Their offices are in these buildings, so it's a short walk. And you've seen these well-dressed men and women come in here today. They're using their right as one of the people to whisper into the ear of a congressman. However, most of us have not done that job. We are falling short. We need to speak out to our congressmen, and if you write a letter, they actually assume that there's about 50,000 people with the same opinion, so writing a letter and mailing it in is the best way to go. Okay, well, Jennifer Martin is telling me I got 2 more minutes. What I'd suggest is, overall, be wary of green. What you want is safe. What you want is natural. Avoid wireless radiation whenever you can. And in your home, there's no need for your Wi-Fi or your cell phone or any of that to be on at night. Try turning off your microwave devices and enjoying how you sleep. That's one of the main ingredients in what we call a sleep sanctuary. And thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate being here. If you have questions, come and see me afterwards over there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My husband and I had Eric come out to our house in Sun City, Roseville, and he measured all the electromagnetic fields in our house. He put 3 filters on some of the plugs, and where my husband laid his head on the pillow, there were 300 times the amount of electromagnetic fields that should be there. By flipping off the switches, 3 switches at night, we're able to sleep better and have considerably less EMFs thanks to Eric. So he's a very valuable resource. All right, our next speaker is Mark Graham. He is an experienced political activist who has worked on different issues including air quality, peace, and educational funding. His latest and current campaign is to raise awareness about the health hazards of wireless radiation and what people can do about it. In January, Mark filed a lawsuit against the Sacramento Metropolitan Utility District over the smart meter opt-out charges in Sacramento County Superior Court. Here is Mark Graham.
All right. First, I just want to say a thank you to everybody that's put this event together. worked on it, organized it. Deborah Whitman, my friend who invited me to this, and all the speakers. It's been just great to listen to everybody. It's been an awesome event. Yes. Good stuff. All right. Do you feel inspired by hearing your fellow activists and advocates? It's good to know that there are people working on all these issues, isn't it? Does this give you hope that our legislators can actually represent the people? You know, I can't help but notice the long stream of people that's been entering this Capitol building right over there. I haven't asked for anybody's ID, but it looks to me like a lot of them are lobbyists. And Eric told me that when he got here early in the morning, there were a couple hundred of them that poured right into the building. So, the legislators are definitely hearing from the lobbyists. They need to hear from us as well. All right. Well, I'm scheduled to talk to you today about Sacramento Municipal Utility District and my lawsuit against them, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. But, how many people here are SMUD customers? You get electricity from Sacramento Municipal Utility District. Anybody? Yes, maybe? Okay, we got at least one. Feel free to raise your hand. This should be audience participation. All right. And this is a true story. And this has to do with the electromagnetic radiation that smart meters are putting into the homes of SMUD customers. In 2005, Congress passed and President Bush signed a law called the Energy Policy Act of 2005. And part of this law was to provide billions of dollars and encourage electric utilities such as SMUD to take away our perfectly good analog electric meters and replace them with smart electric meters. Now the purpose, there were multiple reasons. They don't really tell you the reason for this. They say it's about reducing energy use. That's not it. The real reason is the smart meter has the ability to gather data on your electricity use, not just how much electricity you use, but what appliance you use and what time you use it. What time of night did you turn on the TV or turn it off? When does the bedroom light go off? What time do you open your refrigerator door? And all of this can be used by the corporations for targeted marketing. They want to market to you when they know that if you're a night owl, they want to sell you products that you're probably going to buy. All right. Anyway, that's the real reason. Now, okay. What do I mean by analog electric meters? Anybody know what an analog electric meter is? Excellent. At least one person over there. And Patrick knows too. Okay. What's an analog electric meter, Patrick?
Current goes through it, moves a coil, the thing moves around by the power of the electricity going through it.
Okay. Current goes through the analog meter, it moves a coil, and basically that turns the dial. Essentially, right? Okay. And when you're looking at an analog meter, you can tell it's the old-fashioned kind. It's a glass case. There are 4 or 5 dials on it, about an inch in diameter, with the little hands like on your watch. And the hand moves around from the numbers 0 to 9, and then the guy from the electric company...
And don't forget the disc.
Oh, we got the rotating disc, the horizontal disc, yes. And the faster you're using electricity with an analog meter, the faster that little disc rotates. That's an analog meter. And then when the electric company guy comes around every so often, it's not every month, he can simply tell from looking at the dials how much electricity you've used in your home since the last time you read your meter, and based on that they can bill you. The nice thing about an analog electric meter is that it does not contain an antenna. An analog electric meter does not contain an antenna. That means it's not transmitting radiation into your home. And that's a good thing because wireless radiation is hazardous. All right. The actual policy. SMUD is led by a board of directors. There are 7 directors. Each of them is elected or sometimes appointed. Well, they get reappointed to another term. They meet twice a month at the SMUD headquarters building, 6201 S Street. S is in SMUD in Sacramento. And in fact, they're having a meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. I will be there. Eric Windheim will be there, and we will be speaking truth to power, as we often do. I've been to approximately 50 of these meetings of the SMUD Board of Directors in the last 2.5 years. They know me very well. Eric has been to, I think, about 90 of these meetings. So if you want to talk about somebody that's really dedicated to a cause, the man is Eric Windheim. Eric founded Sacramento Smart Meter Awareness in 2012, I believe, and he's been largely responsible for all the progress that's been made. Anyway, in 2007, true story, the SMUD Board of Directors passed a resolution that was the only resolution they ever passed to authorize SMUD to put smart meters on people's houses. And what that resolution said, they were quoting from something called the Time-Based Metering and Communication Standard.
Good joke.
It's a mouthful. I know, it's a joke. The Time-Based Metering and Communication Standard was part of the Energy Policy Act of 2005, and here's the key part of it all. It said that each customer requesting a time-based rate would be provided with a time-based meter. Each customer requesting a time-based rate would be provided with a time-based meter. That was what the resolution said. And this is SMUD policy to this day. They have not gone back and changed it. Okay, you can see the key part of this resolution was customer choice. They left the choice in the hands of each individual customer whether to get a smart meter on their home or not. Well, and that's a good, I think their customers should have a choice. And most people don't even know that this was ever passed. They were never given a choice. Here's why. What SMUD actually did, they ignored that resolution that was approved by the Board of Directors August 2, 2007. And they said, we're making our own policy. It doesn't matter what the board said. We're going to give everybody a smart meter, and the heck with customer choice. We don't want to get into that. So, every SMUD customer's analog meter was taken off. These were about 600,000. They have 600,000 plus customer accounts, and every SMUD customer was given a smart electric meter, regardless of customer choice. Soon after that, SMUD customers started getting sick from their smart meter. What we found out, Eric and his group, before I got involved, kind of forced SMUD to acknowledge this, but the smart electric meters from SMUD transmit this microwave radiation 13,381 times per day on average. They also transmit up to 240,000 times per day. You cannot, if you're the customer, you cannot turn the smart meter down or off. You cannot reduce the number of transmissions. People started getting sick. What were they experiencing? People were experiencing a range of symptoms. Dizziness, ringing in the ears, which is called tinnitus, insomnia, heart palpitations, and just overall stress. Now, we don't really know how many people were experiencing this, but at least 24 of them felt strongly enough about it. They got in touch with Eric Windheim, and then they prepared a written declaration, which they signed. And they went to the Board of Directors meetings and they delivered their declaration to SMUD, and they read it to SMUD, or described it during public comments. And the declaration just described, this is what happened to my health in my home after SMUD put a smart meter on my home. And they were all different, but what they all had in common was people got sick. Now, in March 2012, SMUD passed a resolution that said, if you don't want to have a smart meter on your home, and if you live in a single family home, and if you're willing to pay extra charges, we will allow you to opt out. Opt out means get rid of your smart electric meter. But that was good. 1 year later, March 2013, SMUD passed another resolution that said, okay, the people that opt out can get an analog electric meter. You still have to pay the charges, you still have to live in a single family home. Now here's the problem. To this day, SMUD has never notified its customers that you can opt out. To this day, SMUD has never notified its customers that you can get an analog electric meter. And we know that since May, at least since May of 2013, people that have been calling SMUD to opt out and get an analog electric meter have been getting all sorts of rigmarole. They run around, SMUD makes excuses. They say, we don't have any, we don't do that anymore. They don't return the phone calls. They try and talk the customer out of it. I filed a lawsuit against SMUD on January 8th Sacramento County Superior Court over, yes, thank you, woo, and it's still alive. I'm going to win this lawsuit over the smart meter opt-out charges. And my basic argument was the board of directors never authorized SMUD to take the analog meter off my house and put a smart meter on my house. I was supposed to have the choice. The board of directors never authorized SMUD to do that. SMUD did that anyway, and then when I called them in 2013 to opt out, I agreed to pay the charges, but those charges were improper. So, what I would say, 3 things. If you have a cell phone, please don't use it any more than you have to. Use it on speakerphone. The women that have young children, the women that are planning to have children, you really need to research the issue, because wireless radiation, radio frequency radiation, is harmful. It is harmful to your newborn and your child, and it's harmful when you're pregnant. Same sort of thing. You have a Wi-Fi router in your house, turn it off. I recommend just turning the Wi-Fi off, and then you connect your computer to the internet with a cable. It's an Ethernet cable. You can get it at any electronics store. The Wi-Fi radiation is similar to the cell phone radiation, and it's hazardous. And then the third thing, if you're, whether you're a PG&E customer or a SMUD customer, get rid of your smart meter if you can. SMUD is very picky about it. They'll only allow you to opt out if you have a single family home, which is discrimination if you ask me. But you can, so if you have a single family home, you have a right to opt out. If you have a duplex, SMUD recently made an exception to their policy for a woman that has a duplex. And they said, okay, for you, as a special accommodation, we will let you opt out. And that was a good idea. So 3 things: minimize your exposure to radio frequency radiation from your cell phone and from the Wi-Fi and from your smart electric meter. You will be healthier, your children will be healthier, and it's not going to cost you more than a smidgen of convenience. Thank you very much. Keep up the good work. Adios.
Thank you, Mark. Just want to make a quick announcement. If you've parked your vehicle around the block on N Street, that's on the street on the way down on the other side of the grass and the building behind us, they're weird. At 4 o'clock, even if you have a parking placard on, disabled placard, from 4 to 6 p.m. there's no parking. And if you are parked there, you will get a ticket, as I did a couple of months ago. So go in the lobby, you're fine up until 4, and then be out and at your vehicle. If you are on that side across the street, either side, be out at your vehicle by about 4:15, and you'll be fine. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Deborah Whitman, founder and president of Environmental Voices, and I want to thank everyone again for coming out. This has been an excellent day. I hope to do this again next year. So we have some packages of information at Environmental Voices booth, or you can get some information from Smart Meters or any of these other groups that are here today. And we ask you to go up and meet with your legislative staff members. So there's senators and assembly members up there, and you probably won't get in to see them directly, but they do have staff and it's open door. So take this material up, ask them to support the causes that you believe in and you want change for. So if you have any questions or need additional information, please come to our booth, Environmental Voices, and I'd be happy to talk to you and answer any questions. And I thank you very much, and good day.
Hey.